Good evening. Welcome to the June 6, 2019 meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yep. Thank you. All right. Oops. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. DeSessa?
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill?
Aye.
Let me see. Mr. Daly?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. A few things before we get started. The first is I just wanted to mention, if you can all do us a favor, and if you have cell phones on you, if you can silence them or turn them off because they interfere with our recording equipment. In addition, if you're inclined to speak to one another in the audience, if you can go in the hallway to speak rather than speak in the auditorium, we would greatly appreciate that as well, because that also interferes with our recording equipment. That is if you want to speak to one another while you're sitting, not when you're coming before the board. And lastly, I just want to announce our emergency exit procedures. Prior to the start of this meeting, I would like to inform everybody of our emergency procedures and exit routes. In case of emergency evacuation, please exit through the rear doors of this room to one of the staircases across the hall and continue downstairs and out through the main entrance. Please do not attempt to use the elevators during an emergency evacuation. In case of a medical emergency, the automated external defibrillator and first aid kit are both located in the hallway on this floor opposite the elevator. Restrooms are located across the hall. And with that, we'll get started with the agenda.
Okay, there is some changes to the agenda, so you folks know.
Be quiet.
Item 9 on the agenda, which is Old Quogue Development LLC, 90 Old Quogue Road, in Flanders, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-139-3-34. Applicant appeals the decision of the Chief Building Inspector dated March 27, 2018, as provided in Town Code 330-165A. Appeals on interpretation of the zoning law map, in that he was in error in refusing to issue an updated certificate of occupancy to certify that an auto repair business was in operation and open to the public at the subject property prior to 1957, and any other relief necessary.
Board has jurisdiction.
With that being said, I'm going to make a motion to adjourn that till 8:01.
Second.
Thank you.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Mr. DeSessa.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Okay, item 12 on the agenda, Kevin Manson and Janet Rostmans. I'm going to make a motion to adjourn that to 8:01.
Second.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Mr. DeSessa.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
When is our next meeting is which, Candace? What's our next?
6:20.
Yep.
And a decision calendar, 625 Butter Lane Homestead LLC, and Francesca Carolyn
Good luck.
Abrasciamento. We're going to put those two decisions off to, put them off till 6:20.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, back to the beginning of the
I have
agenda.
the King decision on as well for 6:20.
I'm sorry, sir?
I forgot to bring the King decision with me this evening, so I'll have it for 6:20.
Okay, then Mr. DeSessa requests that the Sean King decision be put off to 6:20. He did that in the form of a motion, and I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
All right, back to the beginning of the agenda. Item 1 on the agenda is Tiana Bay Apartments Owners, Inc., 50 Ram Pasture Road in Hampton Bay, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-320-1-9.1. Applicant requests relief from the following provisions of the Town Code: 330-155E, conversion to residential condominium or residential cooperative to allow 59 of the 60 pre-existing non-conforming units to have a floor area of less than 600 square feet. 2, for the deck around the gazebo, 330-83A4 yards, to allow an existing deck higher than 1 foot above ground to remain within the required front yard. 3, for the gazebo, 330-11, residential district table of dimensional regulations to allow an existing gazebo to have a setback of 14.9 feet where 70 feet is required. 330-76D, placement of accessory buildings, structures, and uses in all districts. And 330-83C, yards, to allow the gazebo to remain within the required front yard. 4, for the wood deck on the west side of the bayfront building, 330-11, for an accessory side yard setback of 11.1 feet where 20 feet is required, and for an accessory front yard setback of 55.7 feet where 70 feet is required. Relief from 330-83A4, to allow a deck higher than 1 foot above the ground to remain within the required front yard. And 5, to allow the wood deck on the east side bayfront building, 330-11, for an accessory side yard setback to 18.3 feet where 20 feet is required, and any other relief necessary.
Board has jurisdiction. You pass it to Brian.
I
Good
shall.
evening. For the applicant, Kimberly Judd, 737 Roanoke Avenue, Riverhead, New York. I have with me Bruce Anderson from Suffolk Environmental Consulting, Inc., and also Ken Curry, C-U-R-R-Y. He's the property manager at Tiana Bay, if you want to swear them in.
Sure, no problem. If you can both raise your right hand, if you can state your name and addresses for the record, please.
Bruce Anderson, Suffolk Environmental Consulting, Main Street, Bridgehampton, New York.
Okay, and sir?
Kenny Curry, Rampasture Road, 50 Rampasture Road.
Okay, and do you both swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you.
So this is a pre-existing non-conforming use that has been here for quite a long time. This property is 3.5 acres in an R40 zoning district, so it's a pre-existing non-conforming use. The lot itself is a conforming lot area and conforming lot width. We are before you today because back in 2017, one of the unit owners was renovating the interior of his unit, and he got a stop work order from a building inspector. And when he subsequently went in to file for a building permit application, he met with the chief building inspector, who reviewed it and said that he had no problem issuing the building permit, but the pre-existing non-conforming certificate of occupancy of his property is for motel. And if you look at the handout, it's really interesting, the handout that I just handed out, the second memorandum in support, if you look in the back, I was going through the building department files, and there's a brochure here from, it looks to be the 1960s by the cars and the way that people are dressed, but it at one time was called Tiana Bay Resort, Tiana Bay Marina, Hotel, Motel, and Marina. And you can see here the structures that are still there today, mainly the pool, the bocce courts, the motel buildings over here. You'll see that there's some buildings over here that are still there. And the second page shows an aerial photo. I mean, this is from the 60s. It was pretty remarkable because when I go on the GIS, it's kind of blurry, the 62 aerial photo, but they have one here. And it's just a little brochure that of this site that was in the building department file, which I thought was pretty interesting. Mr. Curry said he's been working there since 1979, and he said he had not seen this particular brochure. But in any event, the certificate of occupancies that I submitted in the application, there's a lot. There is a pre-existing CO for the motel use. They have nicknames, each building. If you take a look, Bruce, do you mind holding that end? So if you take a look here, this is called, they call this the long building, they call this the short building. I'm sorry, yeah, the short building, right, the one-story building here. This is the short building right here. On the survey, it says here studios. And then here, where you see two-story building, bayfront, partial one-story, that used to be a restaurant. So if you look in this brochure, you'll see that it mentions a restaurant. There's a CO that mentions restaurant, but the restaurant obviously is not there anymore. Part of it is 8 units, and the rest of it, I think, is like a playroom or a clubhouse, they call it. And then this here, that what they call crow's nest. That's only one story right here. This building here is 2 stories. And Mr. Curry, I think you live in this building over here?
Yes.
That's where his apartment is. So he's there year-round. He's the only person that's year-round. It's obviously a seasonal place, and it closes up in October and probably reopens in May.
April 1st.
Okay. So we went to the planning board for the conversion to cooperative. So this property converted to cooperative back in January of 1981, prior to the town of Southampton enacting the conversion. The town of Southampton regulates the ownership by 330-155, which is conversion to cooperative. So we went to the planning board. They issued a staff report, but they weren't able to finalize it because the units, there are 60 units on this property, 59 of them fall below the required 600 square feet. So we were required to come here first to seek a variance for the units, and then, if approved, we go back to the planning board and hopefully finish up the conversion application. So all but one unit, one unit complies, the other 59 units do not. And I stated earlier, this used to be a motel, so the units are small by nature, as motel units are. And when they converted to cooperatives in January of 1981, it was prior to the town regulating that use. And it's kind of bizarre, because when you look through the narrative and you see the certificates of occupancy and so forth, the town building department continued up until 1998 to issue permits for the renovation and repair of the units over the years. So it's just been 2 years ago when the building inspector felt that you should really update your certificate of occupancy. Nothing has changed. We're not proposing any increase in square footage, any additional density on the units. We're requesting, there are some setback variances for some of the decks which were built without permits that we are here seeking relief before this board. But as far as the units are concerned, Bruce Anderson and I met with the chief building inspector, Ms. Garvin, I think Ms. Cowell was there too. And Bruce prepared this. I think everybody should have this. And like I said, over the years, there are old plans in the building department files throughout the years for each of the units, but they're all done by different people. So Bruce, based upon site inspection and going there and visiting it, I think it's a really well-detailed plan outfit. Shows that the units that have remained the same since it was built in 60 units then, it's still 60 units now. And some of them have been modified over the years where they make one unit smaller and the other one bigger, but there are permits for those that were issued throughout the years. And we're really here to just get the variance for the square footage of the unit so we can go back to the planning board and finish out the conversion to the cooperative. There was another cooperative quite a few years ago that I did when I was working at Bennett and Reed. It was for 12 East Tiana. It was on the canal. And the board at that time, those units also, they converted to cooperative after the town started regulating the conversion to cooperative. And this board granted a variance for some of the units to be under 600 square feet in that situation as well. And they went back to the planning board and completed their conversion to cooperatives. So this would be, I guess, the second one that this board is seeing, unless there's other cooperatives that you have seen since then. But I just also wanted to speak to you about some of the decks that we're seeking variances for, because you'll see that it takes up about 4 lines in the advertisement. So there's this setback here that we're requesting relief for, which is to 11.1. This is on the Bayfront building. And you'll see that the setback is being taken from the staircase here. There's a variance that this board granted back in 1990. I'm sorry, there's a certificate of compliance, no variance. There's a certificate of compliance that the building department granted in 1993, which is in your package, which is for exterior stair addition, for which this staircase here applies for. Mr. Curry said at the time that it was required because of fire access.
Fire exit.
A fire exit. So that did receive a permit, but it the setback is non-conforming, it is 11.1, so that's one of the setbacks that we're requesting over here. On this first and second story wood deck right here, the setback that we're seeking over here, these decks were also built with permits that were issued in 1981, and there's a survey that I have here. This one's mine. I have 3 of them. Mr. DeSussa, do you want to
No, I'm,
just take these?
Yeah,
The
for-
surveys, it just
what about
shows,
Katie's stuff?
okay, if you can hand them all to
These
her.
things.
And basically what it shows is the setback is still the same. It shows the deck, it shows right here, the setback to the wood bulkhead. I scaled it out, it was 52 feet. When that comes down, you'll see that the setback, which also had to be scaled, is about 52 feet. So it's similar as well for that setback. There are 2 decks that were built over the years without permit, but have been in place for quite a long time.
Do we know how they were built without permits?
Mr. Curry?
Okay.
Or do you want to speak to the?
We can, yeah,
Which deck do you want to speak to first?
Which deck are you talking?
So there's the 2 decks, there's the one behind the bayfront and the one on the water.
The boardwalk was, the boardwalk?
Yes, the wood deck, the boardwalk.
That was put in, when we went co-op.
Which is
Back in
1981.
81,
Okay.
82, somewhere right around there.
So that deck is below 1 feet, though, so one of the, I have pictures here that he took, if you want to hand this to the town attorney's office. One of the requested variances for a deck above 1 foot, because if you're above 1 foot, you need a variance for being a required front yard. This deck is below 1 foot, so that means that it does not require a variance for being a required front yard, but it still needs a setback variance. So that's one of the items, and of course, if the board is inclined to grant that, they would have to go, after site plan, would have to go back to the building department to submit a building permit to legalize that and pay the respective fees for that.
So which one is that you don't? think
That's
you
the
need?
wood deck on the water, the one that Mr. Curry calls the boardwalk.
Boardwalk.
With the
I'm just
gazebo on
looking
it.
in- Okay, so I'm just looking on here. All right, for the gazebo.
And I think it says, it references that the deck is above 1 foot and requires a variance for being a required front yard.
Yeah.
Right.
So the picture shows that it's not
30-83A4.
correct. So
You don't think you need that relief?
no,
Because it's,
right, because it's below a foot and we submitted the picture at the most. It's how many inches was you in the picture?
From the
From the ground to
ground, about 4 inches.
4 inches, okay. So that's one deck that was built without a permit. The other one is behind the 2-story building, which is labeled Bayfront. So it's this one right here, Ken?
Right.
So when was that built?
That was built in
You think?
probably 1990.
1990? Okay, so that one was also built without a permit and would have to be legalized. What I can say about that setback is the setback is the same as the house, so it comes no closer to the property line than the existing house. The plastic sheds that you see next to it are going to be removed or relocated to a conforming location. And if the board is so inclined to grant any relief, the conditions to that effect would be acceptable.
Do we know who put up the decks without permits? And it was a long time ago?
Yeah, it was our builder back then. It was it's a little small deck, 10 by 10.
Okay. Because, it sounds like that the property owner at the time, back in the 80s and into the 90s, was trying to get permits for everything, but for some reason, they, I guess, didn't think they needed permits for decks. I'm presuming that.
Right.
Bill Marvin own that place at all?
Yeah.
Yes.
Bill Marvin. I worked for him.
All that stuff there's been
70.
around a long time, I gotta tell you.
Yeah.
I've spent some time up in the Grand Pasture in my heyday.
It sounded like, back when it was with the motel and the restaurant, it sounded like it was a pretty busy place.
Yeah,
Seasonal.
very busy.
Yes, yes.
It's always been seasonal.
Yeah.
So those are the variances we're seeking as far as the decking are concerned. 2 of them were built without permits, but the one behind the Bayfront building is no closer to the side yard setback than the existing building. The variance requested for, and this is what I did it myself just to make it easier. This is the other setback relief that's being requested, and that's for a staircase, which was granted a building permit. Bizarrely, even though it had a non-conforming setback, it still got a permit. And as this deck over here, these decks here, have been there since 1981, and that's the survey that I submitted to the board for the, when this was constructed, when these units were constructed, because this building was converted from the restaurant to part clubhouse, part, eight units are there now.
This is the required was 600
600 is the,
required?
yes.
What are the most of them?
Oh, so if you look at, do you want to address that, Bruce?
Got an average?
So, we
352.
prepared
352 square.
352?
352 to 497, 506, 384. You know, there's about, I guess there's about 5 or 6 prototypes that repeat themselves throughout the buildings. And so we've tried to identify them, and, yeah, they're motel units, so of course they're going to be smaller, because that's how the property was initially developed.
I was just trying to figure out how far off some. But,
Yeah, and in terms of the changeover to co-op, how is that, if at all, going to impact the use of the property and the people staying there?
Well, if the planning board grants it doesn't change as far as the seasonal use of the property, but if the planning board grants the conversion, it's over in an ownership interest, so it would become a cooperative and then become a conforming use.
Yes.
So it would no longer be a non-conforming use, it would be a conforming use like the one on 12 East Tiana is now. But as far as future expansions, they're pretty much maxed out on their lot coverage. They're at 19.93%, where they're allowed 20, and they've got non-conforming setbacks all over the place, so.
So they're looking to sell the units?
No, they're not looking to do anything. We're looking to close out in 2017, when that property unit owner renovated his unit without a permit, we're looking to close, because that permit is still out there. We can't get a certificate of compliance
Right.
until we go through this whole process.
Right now, I mean, the building department's been, honestly, really helpful and cooperative. But the problem is, once we get this CO squared away, then each of the units they could undergo some renovations within the existing spaces that might need electrical, it might need plumbing, who knows? And the idea is, we want to just get the paperwork all behind us so that individual owners can come in and legally, instead of illegally, fix up their apartments within the existing rules.
Is there any room
affecting
for
such units.
expansion or pre-existing expansion, or are they?
There are.
They would have to get, they would, like I said, the lot coverage is 20%. They're at 19.93, I think the plan says, so, and as far as they'd have to change their offering plan with New York State
They
would have to.
can't, but they can't have any more units, according to the town code.
They can't have any more units, but they can expand the size of the units?
Subject to everything that Kim is saying, the build-out, the reality of the
No,
build-out.
I'm just.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And
doubt it.
area variance
Accessory
relief.
Facility of some sort, I suppose. But
And actually, the use is less than it historically was. I mean, if you think about it, because you no longer have a restaurant, which is a high use, which is open to the public. You no longer have the motel use, which is a transient use. So my way of thinking, its use today is far less intensive than it was historically. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, well, I mean, I just think also, there may be some neighbors here, I'm not sure, but if the neighbors are here, they may be, concerned about whether this application is going to change, what's going on in the property and how it might impact them.
Yeah, there's no, I can tell you, it took a long haul to get to this point because the cooperative was split. Some of them didn't want to do anything. They wanted to keep their pre-existing CO for the motel because they didn't want to have to pay Mr. Anderson and I to come and do this whole process. Some of them said no, especially the particular co-op owner who did the renovation without the permit. He was actually, I think the electrician was upgrading his electrical when he got the stop work order. And there's people like him who know that they have to do repairs in the future that are kind of caught in this loop that if they don't do something, they're going to have an issue in the future with doing any type of repair work.
All right, well, appreciate the
See if any
information.
issues here, I'd like to see.
Yep, yep. Any other questions from members of the board? Is there anyone from the public who would like to be heard this evening in connection with the application of Tiana Bay Apartment Owners, Inc.? This is for 50 Rampasture Road in Hampton Bays. Okay. Sir. Okay, you get to come up. Yeah, oh, yeah. Yep. We can't get you on the microphone unless you come up.
Oh, okay. You stand at the podium.
And I just have to swear you in, so if you can state your name and address.
George Lawler. I live at 11 Willow Street in Floral Park, but I do own 54 Rampasture Road.
Okay. And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
So help me God.
Okay.
Can you just leave the last name for me?
Sure, Lawlor.
And actually, can you either go to, just
Yeah,
go to the
the
microphone
podium
so they
so
can,
we get you on the
they can
place.
catch you?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't have any problem with the application. It seems like it's something that the town probably should have done 25, 30 years ago and didn't. I don't think that they should be penalized for, anything that the town has kind of been lax on. And as long as it's just existing structures, my property's the one right next to it, so I would be the most impacted. I don't have a problem with it. Is there anything to stop everybody from going up? If they can't go out, can they just go up? No, right? So if there's no additional structures and it's just grandfathering things that were already existing, I don't really think
There's going to
anybody.
be no additional units,
But,
but it's conceivably possible there might in the future be an accessory structure of some sort.
right. But they'd have to they'd have to come to the board
They
for
would have to
that.
come
You'd have to send out the letters
They would
again
have
and
to go through
everything
the
else.
process.
But they're already just about maxed out, and it's just existing structures that have been around for 40 years, and decks that might be illegal, they're just going to make legal, and it just, I think, gets rid of everybody's hassle more than anything else. And you can't, you don't want to stop people from upgrading their properties rather than downgrading their properties and letting them deteriorate. So I would say, this seems like a no-brainer, but it's up to you guys.
Okay? Thank you for your comments. Is there anyone else who would like to be heard? Okay. So, yep,
Had some planning comments.
Yep.
Adam will read some building comments.
Yep.
I know one of the things that we reviewed that I had spoken to Katie about was when we made the determination of 12 East Tiana, we determined that to be a type 2 for this purpose in terms of converting these and the undersize. So my position is that this would be a type 2 at this point unless anyone on the
I
board had
believe
something
so.
else. Just for
The-
clarity. Yeah, and I saw your submission. I got it later
Okay.
after we had already
Okay.
discussed that, but for purposes of the zoning board to act, I would be considering it a type 2.
Right, and you're not bound by any board's
Correct.
designation, but the planning board is not bound by your type 2 either, and they've
You'll have
already
to
told us that
work
they're
it out
going to
with
do a
them.
type 1. Mr. Anderson's going to have to complete a long-form environmental impact form when we go back to the planning board, and they're going to go over things like parking and lighting and landscaping, like they did at 12 East Tiana.
Right.
They reviewed all of that as well.
So unless anyone on the board thinks otherwise.
well, are you comfortable with being different between the planning board and our
Well,
board?
Yeah,
in
I
terms
mean,
of typing?
there's never a problem being different from the planning board. I had
Okay.
just initially said to Kim, I wanted her to give the board something to identify some of the sections she thought were applicable for the type 2, because I wasn't really sure what the designation was for us. And I did find it persuasive that we had looked at the other unit and we had called that a type 2. So no, I mean, I think that this designation, I think that this memo helps a
Yeah.
lot, you know?
All right.
And again, it is going to have a hard look by the planning board, and
Yep.
we are waiting a planning board referral report as well.
Okay.
Which again, doesn't bind us by secra, but it certainly will identify things that they'll be looking at.
Sure.
All right. So we also got just a minor comment from Mike Benacasa at the building department. And I don't know whether this has already been addressed. The survey shall be revised to indicate the following. 1, the setback from the westerly property line to the bayfront building. And 2, the 2 sheds located on the south side of the bayfront building shall be removed or relocated to a conforming location, which I know you already
Yes.
indicated.
Yeah, so I did the setback on the west side of the bay front building is the call-out 55.7. By west side, I'm assuming that he means the one to the bay. So there is a call-out from the deck to the high water mark line, which is 55.7.
Okay. So and I just want to say a few words about the as-built. So it happened a long time ago, so I don't suspect there will be anybody with much of any information as to how that, the structures went up without permits. We want people to get permits before they build structures. The only other thing I can think of here, I don't really see that it's going to have a negative impact on adjacent properties, but I think maybe just to have in the file an estimated cost to remove or move to a conforming location might be helpful, just to show the financial impact should, not that, we're not looking to have you removed, we're looking to show what it would cost you to remove.
Okay.
To have that information in the file.
Okay.
And, yeah. And also, let me see, is the gazebo part of it too?
The gazebo is on top, yes.
Yeah,
It's
and
on
the
top of deck.
gazebo. Yeah.
Cost estimate for removal of
Yep.
decks and gazebo.
And other than that, this is, you're doing the right thing to try to get everything legalized on the property, and I appreciate the fact that you're here doing that.
Okay, Brian?
Okay.
Okay, seeing or hearing no one else, I move that we close the public hearing. We're not waiting on anything.
And our cost estimate.
So we'll leave it open for written submissions for our referral reports and your cost estimates. And if we can have those,
My cost estimate will be in way before your referrals are.
all right, so then we'll put this on for 6:20 and see if we can have a decision then. If not, it'll be carried over to the following meeting until we have all the information.
Okay.
Second.
Mr. DeSessa.
Aye?
Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill. Aye. Mr. Daly. Aye. Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Appreciate it. Good night.
You too.
What's our first meeting in July?
We don't have a first meeting in July. This is July 4th.
Well, what's our only meeting?
July 4th, July 18th is our only meeting in July. Yep. Almost never happens, but it did this year.
no positive for July 4th.
Okay, item 2 on the agenda is Dean Isidro, 1 Lily Pond Drive in Sag Harbor,
July 18th.
Suffolk County Tax Map 900-26-1-45. Applicant requests the following relief on a non-conforming lot. 1, for the proposed swimming pool, 330-11, residential districts table of dimensional regulations for an accessory distance from street setback of 14.8 feet where 110 feet is required. 2, 330-76D, placement of accessory building structures and uses in all districts, and 330-83C yards to allow the swimming pool to be located within the required front yard of the principal building. And 2, 330-109A1, fences, walls, accessory driveway structures, and clotheslines, to allow a 6-foot stockade fence to be constructed within the required front yard on a non-conforming lot. In addition, applicant requests a determination as to whether or not the proposed shed is a subordinate or incidental building pursuant to Town Code 330-5 definitions because of its size in proportion to the main dwelling and its use, and any other relief necessary.
Board has jurisdiction?
Just, I want to correct myself. July 18th is our only meeting in the month of July, not July 15th. Okay. Just need to swear you in, Jody.
Yes.
You can state your name and address.
Jody Giglio, Bennett Enterprises, offices at 1600 Caleb's Path Extension in Hauppauge.
And you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, council. I said my name was Jody Giglio, here on behalf of Dean Isidro, the owner of 1 Lily Pond Drive in Sag Harbor. Keith, thank you for reading what the requests are before the board. As you can see by the survey, the applicant is on an irregular-shaped lot with 80-foot frontage on Big Bridge Sag Turnpike and then 200 feet on Lily Pond Drive. So it is an irregular-shaped lot. There really is no other place to put a pool on the property or the shed other than in the front yard. So the 6-foot fence on the northern property line, as you can see by the survey, is set back approximately 7 feet from the edge of pavement, so it would not create a obstruction of view for the neighboring property to the north to try and get out of their driveway. We don't believe that the variance being requested would create an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood. A pool is a common amenity in residential neighborhoods. As I stated before, the benefit sought cannot be achieved by any other means. The lot was created as part of a subdivision with 2 front yards, and the lot is very narrow and has a very shallow depth on Lily Pond Drive, which is really the rear yard, because the house fronts on Bridge Sag Turnpike. We don't believe that it's a substantial request for the pool. It's on the street, it's not really affecting any of the neighbors. I did receive a call from Mr. Ficarelli, who is the neighbor to the east, who said that he had no objections to the pool and its placement. He would be the one that would be most affected by the pool, and as I stated, he did call me and say he had no objections, and he thought that they were doing a great job in cleaning up the property. I have submitted photos for the board to see, so you can see the proposed location of the pool. You can see the depth of the lot and where the pool location approximately would be going if you imagined it was situated in that space. We don't believe that it will have an adverse effect on the neighborhood or the environment. The sanitary system exists for the dwelling, and there are no wetlands on the premises. The hardship is not self-created, in that the lot was created in its dimensions when the subdivision was built.
When was the subdivision built? I don't have any notes on the subdivision.
I don't have anything on the survey either as to when the subdivision was built, but as you can see by the photos that I submitted on the adjoining, or the property across the street, it looks like it's an older home. I did not find any records as to when the subdivision was created, but it is a lot that is surrounded by homes on all sides, so it's,
Self-created hardship is only one item of it.
Why are you telling us? I just wanted to know when the subdivision was.
No, she's talking about that, so she's just saying, the self-created hardship is only one item of the 5-part test.
Well, we can,
And
you know,
the
get
shed,
that
is it a
information.
pool house? We're just calling it a shed, or?
it's a shed, it's not a pool house, it's just a shed, and it'll have an outdoor shower.
Usually, things that are that big usually are called like a garage or something else. or
Well, that's
something
what
else
it's just,
than a shed.
different.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
there is a garage on the premises, you can
There
see
is.
that in the photos that
Yeah.
I submitted. It's right up on the roadway, which would not be permitted under current zoning, but there is a certificate of occupancy for all the structures on the premises.
Okay. And what's the shed going to be used for?
The shed is going to be used for pool equipment and for lawnmower equipment and things of that nature.
Storage only?
Yes,
Okay. No intention of making it into a accessory apartment or?
no.
All right.
And
Not at this time.
you only heard from Glenn, you haven't, well, we don't know if there's neighbors here tonight, so we'll see.
Okay. However, let's talk about the fence.
The fence is the issue.
The fence is the issue. Okay, so we.
And I knew it would be.
Yes.
So let's talk about that.
We'll talk about the fence. So in most instances, we don't grant relief for requests for 6-foot fences, and let me tell you why. Because if we start granting relief for 6-foot fences in front yards, all the neighbors always support them. We've been through this many times, because then they'll ask for a fence too, a 6-foot fence too. And then the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and pretty soon we're undercutting what the limitation of the zoning code is for that purpose. There are unusual circumstances, such as when the properties, the space is being used for vegetation, for crops and things like that, where we will allow a higher fence for that purpose. But mostly we don't grant relief for them.
Understood.
So,
I requested it. and
I understand.
I knew that you were probably going to say that, but
Okay.
the applicant wanted it, requested it.
I understand, and I do appreciate that. He can feel free to chat with the town board about changing the code.
How many years has it been, Adam?
It's been a while since.
You've been here?
Since I've been here. Well, I've been here now for 18 years,
Not one, so.
except for these unusual
And I've asked for
ones.
6-foot fences. in front
Yeah,
of it, so.
yeah. No,
Anyway, I
it's-
understand.
No problem at all. So I don't think, and I think I'm speaking for a majority of the board, that we're going to not be approving the fence. But other than that, as far as the pool is concerned, it is a constrained lot. It is a lot, in terms of the setback relief, I mean, 110 feet to 14.8 feet seems like a really big number, but when you look at the limitations on this property, there just are very few options.
Yeah, there is, we couldn't conform with the pool location
Yeah.
at all.
Right. I understand. And the other thing I want to mention, and I don't think that the pool is going to have a negative impact on adjacent properties anyway. But, you know, the setback number is a big number. And then the other thing in terms of the shed, and the reason I asked about what the use of the shed is because our code doesn't delineate exactly when an accessory use, a subordinate use is a subordinate use, but the practice is that if it's 25% or less of the physical size of the primary residence, then it's considered subordinate. If it's bigger than 25%, and in this case we're at 49%, it's basically the building department sends it to us to figure that out. And one of the considerations is the size, and another consideration is what the space is going to be used for. So if it's going to be used for storage, it's, a little bit shy of 50% of the size of the primary residence. I don't have a problem with it, but I do want to mention, maybe we want to call it something other than a shed.
Okay.
It just seems,
A storage building? Is that
Storage
better?
building?
Yeah.
Sure,
That would be
sure.
fine. And we
Okay.
would have no problem covenanting or putting any restrictions that the zoning board sought for that structure.
Okay. Do we want to do no habitable living space?
I think that's fair.
Okay.
It's gonna be for pool equipment.
Yeah, yeah, okay, so there would be a condition that that structure would not be used for habitable living space.
Fine.
we'll see if anybody's here.
We'll see if anybody's here.
Turn into a pool house anyhow before this is all over.
You never know, you never know. But in any case, any other questions from members of the board? Is there anyone from the public who would like to be heard this evening in connection with the application of Isidro? I think I pronounced it right. As for 1 Lily Pond Lane in Sag Harbor. If not, Mike, it's yours.
So we'll close the public hearing. For all purposes, are we waiting for anything? No. And we'll have a decision for you by June 20th.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
You too. Thank you. You have a second
there was-
motion. Oh, I'm sorry.
There's a note from the building department.
Oh, yeah.
Jody, sorry,
before you
I almost got away.
The size of
Yeah, but don't they need the floor plans, or we need something on it?
the ratio of the size is approximately, it seems like they were just calling out the fact that it was 49%, we know that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's right.
Approximately 40, don't we usually get square footages, just so that it's in the record?
Listen, do we need to worry about whatever they're gonna change the name of that structure to?
Yeah, we
Revised
Revised
survey.
survey.
Submission, I'm sorry.
Revised survey.
We need
Yes.
two things, sorry, and I don't mean to. Go ahead.
That's okay.
We need a revised survey to rename this building,
Okay.
and we need just a letter by an architect or engineer for the square footage of the main building, the main dwelling, and the square footage of the accessory structure. Because we have an approximate in our notes, and every decision, we need a letter from an architect or an engineer certifying the sizes.
Certainly.
Sorry, and then with that, I didn't mean to cut you off. I meant to say that, and
Okay,
forgot.
all right, so,
Okay, so we will close the public hearing with the exception of written submissions with those two items.
A second.
and 6:20 for decision.
And as long as we can get them back within a week or so, you'll then be able to have a decision for 6:20.
Very well. I'll also remove the proposed 6-foot fence on the
Second,
northern property
revised
line.
idea.
Yes, excellent, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Daly,
Aye.
Mr. DeSessa.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Mr. Hahn.
Thank you for pointing
Mr.
that out.
Tudhill.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Item 3 on the agenda is Ethel Wanzer, Doris Badgley, fiduciary. 26 Breezy Drive, Noyak, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-23-1-6. Applicant requested a determination that the subject parcel, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-23-1-6, is held in single and separate ownership from all adjacent parcels, and thus entitled to relief pursuant to 330-115D3 and any other relief necessary.
I just asked, should we open
Board has jurisdiction.
3 and 4 at the same time?
Yes.
All right, I'll call 4 too, all right? Read it now and get it over with.
That'd be great.
All right, 4 is Ethel Wanzer, Doris Badgley fiduciary, 65 Island View Drive, Noyak, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-23-1-14. Suffolk County Tax Map 900-23-114. I don't know why that's still going on. Applicant requested determination that the subject parcel 900-23-1-14 is held in single and separate ownership from all adjacent parcels, and thus entitled to relief pursuant to 330-115D3 and any other relief necessary.
Board has jurisdiction. I'm sending both down to Cornelius.
Mr. Kelly.
Mr. Anderson.
Okay, just had to swear you in, if you can state your name and address.
Bruce Anderson, Suffolk Environmental Consulting, offices in Main Street, Bridgeton.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay, if you can tell us about these two applications.
I want to just hand out,
Well, Mr. Anderson has a 6-foot fence.
need an 8-foot.
Seems to be a theme tonight. Not for long.
We'll be consistent tonight, don't worry. Always.
Keep going then, maybe.
No. Single.
Yes.
Want me to take this?
Surely, surely.
I'm sorry, I have one for you, Katie, as well.
Oh, Keith wanted to share his, so. Keep it
Okay.
I try to
for road
get
review.
everyone. Okay, this is a request for determination that 2 lots are held in single and separate ownership for purposes of zoning, and that 33115D be applied. These are lots 70 and 78. Prior to holding common ownership, were created as part of the subdivision known as Rolling Hills Estates subdivision, which was filed on July 28, 1967, and was defined as, and is defined as pre-existing non-conforming as a result of the area being upzoned to the R40 zoning designations, which requires, of course, a minimum of 40,000 square feet per lot. The applicants requests relief from the 33011 in order to declare the lot as being single and separate, thereby returning it to its pre-existing non-conforming status, as well as requesting relief from 330-115D, so that the requirements of the C-zone can be applied, which was the traditional zoning for the subdivision, and for which the other lots enjoy in the neighborhood. December 7th, 1974, the parcel known by tax map number 23-114, or also 65 Island View Drive, was purchased by Doris Bagley and Ethel Wanzer from RK Builders, Inc. I believe RK Builders was the original developer of the subdivision. On December 7th, 1974, the parcel known as 0900 23-16, or 26 Breezy Drive, was purchased by Ethel Wanzer from RK Builders. So Ethel and Doris bought one lot, Ethel bought the other lot. 2 years later, on May 21st, 1976, the parcel at 65 Island View Road was purchased by Ethel Wanzer from Doris and Ethel. So Doris sells out her share to Ethel. At that point, the 2 parcels are held in single and common ownership. On June 29th, 1994, Ethel Wanzer passed away, and Doris Bagley is granted by the Circuit Courts of New York, Suffolk County, as administrator, executor, fiduciary to the estate of Ethel Wanzer, and to perform all acts, requisite to the proper administration of that estate. Apparently, neither Ethel Wanzer nor Doris Bagley were aware that the entire property was upzoned from the then-established C-zone for the subdivision map of Rolling Hills Estate to the present R40 zoning. But Doris, as executor to the estate, is requesting determination that the 2 lots be considered individual lots. And the basis of the request is that these 2 lots were obviously separately purchased. They enjoy distinct tax map numbers, have been individually assessed and taxed, and have never been used in conjunction with each other. The site data is as follows. Lot 14, which is 65 Island View Drive, contains 22,350 square feet. Lot 6, which is 26 Breezy Drive, contains 21,710 square feet. Both lots are vacant. Both lots are wooded. The 2 lots are back-to-back lots fronting on 2 separate roads, one being Island View Drive, the other being Breezy Drive, and they share a common rear property line. Now, don't ask me how I just remember this, because I had one of these cases about 10 years ago in front of this board, but what I learned is that there was case law back in 2005 to support the conclusion that the two lots are not merged for purposes of zoning. In the matter of Matherson versus Shire, which I attached up front in my package to you, the court found that, quote-unquote, lots in back-to-back split formation are deemed not to have merged for zoning variance purposes where it is shown that during the period of common ownership, parcels were never used in conjunction with one another, and neither parcel materially enhanced the value or utility of the other parcel.
There are
This is the
several
appellate
other-
doing.
Yes, and there are several other decisions that reach that same conclusion. So,
Okay, so-
we are familiar. These are the series of cases that we look at and
Yeah, because they're
looking at-
back-to-back.
No, back-to-back split is treated a little bit differently.
Right,
Yeah.
so I
An
throw that.
extra argument. Yeah.
So when we go through our package, what we see is we have the separate tax map lots, we have the separate tax bills. If you then look at the first aerial in front of you, you can see they're fully wooded, neither one's developed, neither one's touched,
Not even anything on that?
not anything, completely vacant and mature woodland pieces.
Mortgage?
No, there's no mortgage. I wish,
Never was?
never was, to my knowledge, it never was.
Separate deeds?
Separate deeds, yes.
All right.
So what we would say is that the grant of variance in this case would not cause an undesirable change in the neighborhood, because the neighborhood are the lots of the subdivision of Rolling Hills Estates, and they're all similarly sized. And if you go to the next aerial, you'll see how the lots lay out in the neighborhood in which they fall, and you can see they're all approximately the same size. Obviously, our benefit cannot be achieved without the determination from this board because they were inadvertently held in common ownership. The determination of lots in single and separate would not have an adverse effect on the physical or environmental conditions of the neighborhood of the site because the result in doing so preserves the historical development pattern of the neighborhood. And, by the way, is a recognized lots, both are recognized by the Health Department in the Suffolk County Sanitary Code. The variance is not, in our view, substantial because the previous C-zone would have permitted both lots. They would have been conforming under the C-zone in which they were created. The variance may have been self-created by virtue of being held in common ownership, but the common ownership was inadvertent. And so we think the benefit, it's our contention, that the requested determination, if granted, would outweigh any detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or community in which it lies. Our benefit, obviously, would be the recognition of two vacant lots, and we believe that there would be no detriment to the neighborhood or community because the lots are similarly sized, similarly proportioned to all the lots in the neighborhood, and that concludes my presentation.
Did you happen to provide us, just a letter of testamentary?
Yes, we did.
It's in the packet?
Yes, yes, they were in this.
You heard from any of the neighbors?
No, I have not.
I mean, it appears to me that based on the analysis that we look at, and which you went through, that there was no legal merger, there's no justification for us concluding otherwise, unless we hear something from the neighbors that we're not aware of. It would seem to me that these are single and separate lots. So, yep, any other questions from members of the board? Is there anyone from the public who'd like to be heard? We're actually hearing on two different applications at the same time. Both are Wanser. One is for 26 Breezy Drive in Noyak, and the other is for 65 Island View Drive in Noyak. Is there anyone here who would like to be heard? If not, Cornelius.
These are in common ownership right now, right? Names?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I mean, the board also has to
Just to give you a
condition
heads
it.
up, typically on these, we now require, in order to maintain the single and separate status, that within a year,
They're
they deed
deeded
them out separately, separate parties.
And there is a comment from the building inspector that the survey associated with certificate of compliance A16006 for a 6-foot high fence shows a 4-foot high fence.
No.
Oh, why did I get stuck in? All right,
Yeah, when you said that, I was like,
That's
oh,
okay.
I don't-
stuck in the wrong packet. All
That's
right.
Talking about
I didn't think
it.
there were any structures on this.
No, it was in the, it was in the
Oh,
packet. What are
I
you doing to me,
understand.
Candace?
So the motion is?
We're going to close this for all purposes with a decision on our next meeting, June 20th.
Second.
Mr. Kelly,
Aye.
Mr. DeSessa,
Aye.
Mr. Daly,
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill,
Aye.
Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank
Thank you
you.
very much, greatly appreciate it.
Have a good night. Unless you're going to be back for more.
I'm not done yet.
Okay, really? All right, you're going to be back for more. Wow.
Too bad. Item 5 on the agenda is Teresa McNamara, 4 Maple Street in Hampton Bays, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-260-1-38. Applicant requests relief from the following provisions of the town code to legalize the location of the frame shed on a non-conforming lot. 1, 330-11 residential districts table of dimensional regulations for an accessory distance from street setback of 34.5 feet where 50 feet is required. And 2, 330-76D, placement of accessory buildings, structures, and uses in all districts. And 330-83C yards to allow the shed to remain within the required front yard. 2, to legalize the location of the pool equipment. 330-77G, placement of accessory buildings, structures, and uses in resident districts for a side yard setback of 4.3 feet where 10 feet is required. 3, to legalize the location of the hot tub. 330-76D, placement of accessory building structures and uses in all districts. And 330-83C yards to allow the hot tub to remain within the required minimum and total side yard for the principal building. 4, for proposed one-story addition to the existing dwelling, 330-115C continuance for a principal rear yard setback of 19.7 feet where 30.3 feet is existing. And 5, to legalize a 6-foot-high fence located in the required front yard. 330-109A1, fences, walls, accessory driveway structures, and clotheslines, to allow the 6-foot-high fence to remain in the required front yard where a maximum of 4 feet is permitted, and any other relief necessary.
The board has jurisdiction.
Good evening. Just have to swear you both in unless either of you are an attorney.
No.
Okay, so you can just raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record. You don't have to stand
Oh,
up.
I'm Teresa McNamara, and I live at 4 Maple Street, Hampton Bays, New York, 11947.
Okay, and sir.
I'm Brad McNamara. I too live at 4 Maple Street, Hampton Bays.
Okay, and do you both swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, if you can tell us about your application.
Okay. So we submitted a permit to build a kitchen extension, and it was brought to our attention that there were some issues with the property. So we're here hoping to get variance on those things.
Okay. So we have a few different items, but before we go, I just want to mention at the outset, this property has some challenges because you have 3 front yards.
Yeah.
That
didn't realize
really
that.
makes it hard.
We really
Okay,
thought
so
it was a
we-
backyard.
Yeah, I understand. So that means that basically the setbacks are much more restrictive than they would be if you were not in that circumstance. If it were 2 front yards, it would be a challenge, but with 3 front yards, it's especially a challenge.
Okay, thank you.
I think
Oh,
it
2
was
front
two.
yards?
Yeah,
Oh,
Maple
Shore
and
Roads, I see. I stand corrected, 2 front yards. The
Okay.
Shore Road is, I guess, a
Yeah.
lot over.
But
Yeah.
the house doorway and driveway and everything is on Maple Street. So the house is facing Maple Street, if that makes sense. When you pull up, that's the way you go in and out.
Okay, that's fine. So why don't we go through the relief of the structures? I know we're starting with the shed, and the shed appears to be an as-built shed. With the structures that were as-built, I want to ask whether they were there when you bought the property or whether they were subsequently
No, we bought it.
constructed.
We bought the shed.
You bought the shed and
Yes.
and
Yes.
put it up? Okay, all right. How recently did you do that?
The beginning of this year.
Yeah, 19.
Okay, yeah. And with sheds in particular, it gets a little bit confusing because you can put a small shed up without a building permit
Yes.
in the town. That's actually a fairly recent change.
Okay.
But otherwise, but it has to be in a conforming location. But otherwise, you need a permit for it. So, anyway, so what we're what you're looking for here is setback relief 50 feet to 34.5 feet, and for the shed to be located in the front yard. And getting back to what I said about, well, 2 front yards, not
Yeah.
3 front yards, the functional rear yard on your property is a front yard.
Yes.
And so that's the reason I think that becomes part of the relief that you
Yes.
need.
It's an irregular shaped lot, as you can see from the survey.
Okay.
The width of it is very tiny as well.
Yeah.
So we've had challenges since we bought the property on where to place things properly.
Okay. Now, the shed, what kind of shape is it in? Is it it's pretty much a brand-new shed?
Yes.
Yes.
And is it a solid, the reason I ask is because in order for us to give an approval for a shed, it has to be stable enough to withstand a
Oh,
major
yes.
storm.
Yes.
And we need documentation to establish that, actually.
Sure.
I printed the manual.
Okay.
Can I give that to you?
Well, you can submit that into the record.
Okay.
But I think what we're going to need is something from someone who is a professional, engineer, architect, somebody in the business to state that this lives up to current building code.
Like my architect?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just like a letter?
Or a builder.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
Oh, okay.
Regardless of where it was purchased?
regardless.
Okay.
Yeah. And this is because we want to make sure the structure isn't going to fall down.
Oh,
because of
yeah.
Storm,
Yeah.
after we grant relief for it.
Okay.
All right. So that's the shed. And then, in addition, you're looking to legalize the pool equipment, 10 feet to 4.3 feet. And how long has the pool equipment been there?
We put it there when we bought the house, 2016. We had gotten a certificate of compliance, so we were trusting the inspector who came to, if we didn't have it in the right spot in the beginning, why wasn't it brought to our attention then?
Well, the building inspectors don't always catch everything.
Oh, okay.
So, even if you go and and sometimes, I'll take it a step further, sometimes you can get an approval from the building department for a structure that was issued in error. That can happen too. But they do the best they can.
Yeah.
They're very diligent, work very hard, but they
Yeah.
don't necessarily always catch everything.
Yeah.
Okay, so relief for the pool equipment. Next is to legalize hot tub. Relief to allow the hot tub to remain in a side yard. So, want to ask the same question about the hot tub. How did it get there?
We inherited it. It
With the
came
It was there with the
Yeah.
house? Okay. All right. Okay. Did you have an attorney when you bought the property? I presume you probably did. Well, just so you know, attorneys generally are supposed to be taking, in my view, if they're familiar with, zoning issues, to take a look at the survey and taking a look at the COs to see if the COs cover everything on the property, just so you know. I
We
mean,
have a CO that said it
does
did.
say hot tub.
It does say
they have a
yeah.
CO for a hot tub?
Yeah.
Then
Okay.
what,
Okay.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, so the CO, so your attorney did a good job and
Right, right,
this the hot
yes.
tub.
Okay.
It just was apparently,
I'll double check, but I think this, for that hot tub was in a conforming location, I believe.
I see.
I'll double check that.
Okay.
And did you move it?
We did. We had a deck built. We did. We had a deck built.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Listen, when you said you'd swear to tell the truth.
I am. Oh, what? Am I supposed? What?
She told the truth.
I always-
Didn't-
I
Yeah.
recommend you, right leg, once in a while.
No, she's over telling the truth.
I always tell the truth.
Okay,
Is that a crime?
all right.
No.
No, it's what we want you to do and we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay.
That whole area up there is tough. We've dealt with this before, had them up there.
heard from any of your
These
neighbors.
small lots,
Yes,
40 by
um,
100, 60 by 100s.
Oh, thank you.
Weird shape, weird
we,
dimension.
They've written letters.
You can submit those to our
Okay.
attorney if you haven't submitted them already. You
Okay.
can just hand
Yeah.
them to,
Thank you. And I took pictures.
okay, sure, you submit.
You wanna hear what the
neighbor said, or?
No, just hand
Yeah.
it.
Yep, just hand them in, we want to have them in the record.
The neighbors pretty much,
You know,
like the fact that we kind of cleaned up the property and upgraded it.
yeah, so we get a lot of compliments.
Okay, good.
And I'm not one to boast. I'm just saying, like, you just hit on it. When we bought this property, it was derelict. It was abandoned, basically, by the homeowners.
Wow.
And we really cleaned it up. And I took pictures of what it looked like when we bought it and what it looks like now. And that's why we have a lot of friends in our neighborhood, because they just really appreciate what we've done to the neighborhood.
Sure.
And it's written in the letters that,
Increases their property value.
right,
Yeah, that too.
That whole area is a little tough, you know, small lots and stuff.
irregular lot.
Yeah.
Oldish,
Yeah.
been there a long time. I'm glad you bought it. I'm glad you fixed it up.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
we want to just make it even nicer, so, but these are.
I tell the truth too, not just her.
So I just want to go back to
Yeah.
the rest of the relief. So proposed one-story addition to residence, rear yard setback, 30.3 feet, existing to 19.7 feet. So what do you want to have the addition for?
Oh, the kitchen.
Yes.
The kitchen is even inside the house, it's irregular.
It's limited with the side door and then the back door, so it's like a
And it's
small
an angle,
galley.
and it's only two sides, so we originally just wanted to do the cabinets over, and in talking to a few people, they suggested doing an extension, and,
Okay.
yeah, so we want to make this our permanent, like a retirement home for us, so we
Right.
want to make it beautiful.
Okay, good. All right, so the last item is relief to legalize a 6-foot fence in the front yard. And you might have heard our
Listening
comments
to
at
you.
the other
Yeah,
public hearing. So we almost never grant relief for 6-foot fences in front yards, because the town code says that it's 4 feet in front yards.
Yeah.
And that if we start getting in the business of granting relief for 6-foot
Where's the
fences in
front yard?
yards.
That's the,
That's the,
Where's the front yard?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, right. The fencing that's
On the
6
Birch
feet on the,
Yeah.
on the
no,
other.
the front yard is
There's
Maple
multiple
Street.
front yards, so I'm
It's a
saying.
multiple front
We have to
yards.
take
No,
time out to make a
Multiple.
determination what's the front,
And
what's
we're
the
the-
rear.
in the-
No, they have two front
In those areas where it's not, a front yard, you can put up a 6-foot
Yeah.
fence. But front yards,
You could plant trees or bushes that are.
Yeah.
if you want privacy.
neighbors.
you
But
can
I
do
just
that
want to
instead.
challenge you quickly on that,
Sure.
and just hear my particular situation.
Sure.
So, with the pool, it's an irregular lot, and we have two front yards, we've come to learn that.
Mm-hmm.
But Birch Street is a very desolate street, poor lighting, and
not even paved.
it's not paved, it's a very, and we've caught people hanging out back there, because the next day we would see
Right.
like trash and cigarette butts and stuff like that. So we feel secure with that 6-foot fence.
And it's like
also-
40 feet too, I believe,
Yeah.
total length.
And on the other side with the pool there, we just think like,
A 4-foot fence is not as safe as a 6-foot fence.
yeah.
Okay. Well,
just-
there are particular requirements in the zoning code for pools and fencing for pools.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
So whatever that is, that's what you would do in terms of keeping the pool secure. But I appreciate what you're saying.
Yeah.
We've heard every argument you could possibly
Yeah.
think of. And a couple of them, on a couple of occasions,
Yeah.
mainly for growing crops, where they need food, the property needs to be, not have deer on it for food production. Other than
Yeah.
that, we're just not inclined to grant that relief.
Yeah.
Because it's a slippery slope for that. We go down that road, and I assure you, we will be inundated
Inundated with
with
requests,
applications
okay.
for 6-foot fences.
6-foot fence.
And like I said with the other application,
On Montauk Highway.
right. Oh, yeah, all over. So, if you feel strongly about it, feel free to talk to the town board, because we do get these, you request from
Yeah.
time to time. They have determined that 6-foot fences are not to be permitted in front yards.
Okay.
But the only fence that they would have to replace is on Birch, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Maple.
So it's not a big deal.
4 foot,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
It's not a big deal.
Yep, I understand. So it
Yeah,
needs
it's
to
a
be-
couple of panels.
In 4 sections.
Yeah,
You're done.
this needs to be 4
Gives you
feet.
something to do.
So the
you-
Who wants to be
fence
bored?
along the other parts of the property is appropriate?
It's fine, it's just the front yard fencing.
Just the front yard?
Yeah, yeah, which really would be either by Birch Street or by Maple Street. And I'm looking at Maple Street,
Step 4.
yeah.
You don't have a 6-foot fence?
No.
along
No,
Maple?
not a
No,
Maple.
it's just
Just on
Birch.
It's just Birch.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The 40-foot section.
yes. So, if it wasn't against Birch Street, it would be permitted. And so it goes back to the 2 front yards.
Yeah.
But
Anybody in the audience here on Teresa McNamara, 4 Maple Street?
in Hampton Bays.
Seeing and hearing no one, motion to close determination on 620.
Second.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Mr. Hahn.
What does that mean?
We're gonna get approved with everything but the fence.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
But you don't have to come back on the 20th.
I don't.
No, you can call Candace the next time.
Absolutely.
Oh, so you mean everything's okay but the fence?
Everything but the fence.
But the next time you go to move something, make
Yes.
sure, like the hot tub, don't.
Yeah.
do it
That's right.
again.
No.
We want to make sure, if you have any doubt as to whether you need a permit or not, you just go and ask.
Yes.
Because this property has some challenges.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, it does.
Okay, but I'm really glad that you've done all the things you're doing.
Oh, thank you.
Definitely much improved.
Thank you.
I just want to cry. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. Mr.
You
Bessetti?
can cry if you.
Mr. Daly?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you, have a good night.
You too.
All right, take care.
Linda, thank you. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Good night.
Item 6 on the agenda, Anthony and Deborah Tarsitano, 1599 Sag Road in Bridgehampton, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-26-2-97.1. Applicant requests relief from the following provisions of the town code for a proposed detached garage. 1, 330-11, residential districts table of dimensional regulations for an accessory front yard setback of 70 feet where 110 feet is required. And 2, 330-76D, placement of accessory building structures and uses in all districts. And 330-83C yards to allow the proposed garage to be located within the required front yard of the principal building on a non-conforming lot and any other relief necessary.
Board has jurisdiction.
Good evening.
Brian?
You state your name and address.
Bruce Anderson, Suffolk Environmental Consulting, offices in Main Street, Bridgehampton.
And you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay.
So Matt said we had to vote down one of these tonight. Is this the one? You're too much tonight, Bruce, you know?
He's here to object.
That's it, Brian.
You know, we used to provide copies of all the variances, any variances we find in the neighborhood, and Herb Phillips, who was then the chair, told me explicitly, just describe it, kill us with all that paper, so we're trying to reduce our paperwork.
It would be exhausting, all that paper, carrying it around.
Yes. So, the applicants, Anthony and Deborah Tarsitano, are at 1599 Sag Road in Bridgehampton. And they propose to construct a 24-foot by 24-foot garage, detached garage, located 70 feet from the front lot line and 43 feet from the side lot line. This property contains 57,700 square feet, but it is zoned now CR 200. So we have a 1.3 acre parcel in a 5 acre zone. The property is also located within the town's Aquifer Protection Overlay District. The variances we're requesting is 330-11, which requiring a setback of the street 70 feet where 110 feet is required in a CR 200 zone. We are also requesting 330-76D, which simply states that all accessory buildings, including private garages, shall not be placed within the required front yard. Required side yard or total required side yard.
And you've got...
You gonna take out all these beautiful rhododendrons?
Yes, sir. And then also 83C, which says that each part of the required yard shall be open to the sky, and I know the board is very familiar with that. The neighborhood is predominantly residential, and the interesting thing about this particular property or area is that the property is directly across the street from Sag Road, are zoned R20. And so on the east side of Sag Road, properties are R20. On the west side, they're CR 200. And this is a lot that was created many, many years ago. The property was initially developed with a single-family dwelling in 1961. And in that building permit, which I have a copy of, the application that was approved specifies the zoning in effect at that time to be C residential. And so the existing dwelling, which is now going to be demolished and removed, the dwelling itself was 50 feet from the front lot line, and the front entryway, which is a kind of a raised deck, is some 40 feet from the front lot line, which is consistent with and compliant with the C-zone setbacks pertaining to front yards. You should know that we've prepared an aerial photographs, series of aerial photographs that show a heavily wooded site. It's unlikely that the garage is going to be easily visible from the street because it is low, it is set back, and the grade descends from the elevation of the road. In other words, it slopes downwards towards the wetlands on the opposite side of the lot. You should know we received NYSDEC permits for the development in accordance with the survey in front of you. We've received Southampton Town wetland permits for that, and we've received Suffolk County Department of Health Services permits for this. So this is really our last step before going to the building department.
Heard from any of the neighbors?
Yes, we have across the street from is 1626 Sag Road, LLC, and we have a letter signed by Dennis Downs, who is the manager of the LLC, rendering full support for the project as proposed. So I put that into the record. We would say that there's no impact to the character of the neighborhood because the setback of 70 feet for the detached garage greatly exceeds the existing setback for the house, which is, as I said, was 50 feet and 40 feet with the front entry. And that although the property is zoned CR 200 and contains 70 feet, the setbacks proposed here are much greater than the existing setbacks that exist today. So overall, setbacks are more conforming than they are presently. And then, of course, that the garage, which is the subject of this property, is well screened. This is in the Aquifer Protection Overlay District. Our requirement is that we preserve 50% of the vegetation on the lot. And so we are a little bit constrained. We don't have the ability of pushing it much further back because the development plan in front of you is at 50%. So we would not want to move further away from the road, and I suspect the environmental people would not want us moving closer to wetlands.
Absolutely not, and that's the reason that you have this limitation, and the reason I think.
You spent
that
some time with Marty Shea on this, I
Yeah, yeah.
presume?
A little bit.
Yeah.
A couple of years.
So if there weren't wetlands there, you could put it in the rear, but you can't.
That is correct.
It's not an option.
And that the variances we seek are not substantial, constituting 34% of the relief, and that it would not have an adverse effect on the environmental conditions of the neighborhood because we're in receipt of all the environmental permits that we've asked for. In the last page, we identify the variances, and they're all the same. They're all dealing with the non-conforming lots that can't meet front yard setbacks. And so our contention is that there is benefit of the applicant would greatly outweigh any detriment to the public health and safety of the neighborhood and district if the variance were granted.
Questions from the board? Anybody here?
I don't have any.
Anybody here on this application?
This is the application of Tarsitano for 1599 Sag Road in Bridgehampton.
Okay, we're waiting on anybody, Candace?
This conservation board referral.
Okay. Seeing or hearing no one, I move to close the public hearing, leaving it open for our referral report from the Conservation Board, where you've already obtained a permit. They're going to have comments, and then we'll have a decision on for 6:20.
Second. Mr. DeSessa.
Aye.
Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Do you have any more tonight?
Good night, I'm exhausted.
Okay, have a good night.
Good night.
Mr. Daly asked for a
Short break.
bathroom.
Do we want to take a break for a couple of minutes?
Mr. Daly wants a break, by all means.
Already out the door.
I guess we'll keep going to the next one unless we want to take a break.
We can start it.
Majority rules.
Let's take the break.
Okay, we'll take a break for a few minutes.
Thanks, guys, really appreciate it.
Yes, gavel. Short break.
I'm not going to road review for that.
Oh, my goodness. We are back on.
Item 7 on the agenda is Robert Dankner and Maud Davis, 1 Old Fish Cove Road, North Sea, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-60-3-16.1. Applicant requests relief from the following provisions of the Town Code for a proposed attached garage. 1, 330-11 residential districts table of dimensional regulations for an accessory front yard setback of 40 feet where 70 feet is required from the northerly lot line, Noyak Road. And 2, 330-76D, placement of accessory building structures and uses in all districts, and 330-83C yards to allow the proposed garage to be located within the required front yard of the principal building, a non-conforming lot, and any other relief necessary.
Board has jurisdiction?
Good evening. I'll swear you in, if you can state your name and address.
Susanna Herman and Consultants, 1319 North Sea Road, Southampton.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, if you could tell us about the application.
Okay, this application is for a one-story detached garage. It's located at 1 Old Fish Cove Road, and the property has 3 front yards. It backs up to Noyak Road and straight path, and then the driveway is off of Old Fish Cove Road. So with the shape of the lot, you should all have the survey, and I handed up some photographs. With the way that the lot is shaped, which is kind of long and narrow, and the fact that there are 3 front yards, it makes it pretty hard to put a detached garage on the property. The R40 accessory structure setback from a street is 70 feet. It is possible to squeeze a garage into a conforming location. However, it would be just to the east of the house. It would be smashed up against the house itself and would be basically in the middle of the yard. By pushing it closer to Noyak Road, it opens up the property to allow for a more usable driveway, and pushing the garage back into that corner opens up the whole property. It still meets the setback to the adjacent property to the east, so it meets that side yard setback. The property is very well screened. It's only 44% cleared. There's a large hedge that's along the side property line. Well, it's actually not on the property line. To the, it borders the property line closer to Old Fish Cove, and then the hedge that's there now between this property and the property to the east is actually about 20 feet inside of the subject property. So they would take down that hedge and put a new hedge on the property line. The area between the proposed garage and Noyak Road is very well vegetated. There would only be a couple of non-native trees that would have to be removed from that corner in order to place the garage in that spot.
Have you heard from the neighbors?
No.
And we'll condition the hedge line to go onto that property line there, right?
Right, right. Right now, the hedge line's actually sort of in the middle of the yard.
I see that.
Yeah.
And this was the lot with the 3 front yards that I was thinking of in the other application, so I was waiting.
Right, right.
Yeah, yeah. So 3 front yards creates challenges.
You confirm it's 3 front yards?
There's 3 streets.
Old Fish Cove Road, Straight Path, and Noyak Road. Looks like
Right.
three streets.
Right.
Jason, I have no questions.
See if anybody's here.
Okay. Would anyone like to be heard this evening? Comes the application of Dankner and Davis. This is for 1 Old Fish Cove Road in North Sea.
We waiting on anything?
No.
I will make a motion to close the public hearing for all purposes. I will have a decision for you on 6/20.
Second.
Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Mr. DeSessa.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Number 8 on the agenda is Ira and Linda Friedband, 16 Bettina Court in Hampton Bays, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-173-2-6.9. Applicant requests relief from Town Code 330-11, Residential Districts Table of Dimensional Regulations for a principal side yard setback of 11.4 feet where 20 feet is required to legalize a carport, and an accessory side yard setback of 16 feet where 20 feet is required to legalize the location of the shed and any other relief necessary.
The board has jurisdiction, and I note there's a typo in your last name.
Yes,
Just
there's
add
no,
that in.
there's no D in the middle. Yeah.
So whoever's writing this decision, just take out the D.
Okay,
Being what, Friedman?
Yep,
Okay.
so that it's free to.
okay.
It's actually
Oh, there's a D in Linda, too.
It's
you know?
Fryban?
Yes.
Okay, all right. All right, so I just have to swear you both in, unless either of you is an attorney. If you can state your names and addresses for the record.
Ira Fryban, 16 Bettina Court, Hampton Bays, New York.
Okay.
Linda Fryban, 16 Bettina Court, Hampton Bays.
And do you both swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
If you can tell us about your application.
Absolutely. We bought this property about 17, 18 years ago. If you could look at, I believe I have the survey. It has a double garage. At that time, I purchased a pickup truck, which wouldn't fit into the garage. I built a carport. I shouldn't say I built a carport. I had a carport professionally built. I think I have some pictures of it. At that point, I did not know of the variance that I needed, I think the 20-foot setback or whatever it was at that point. We came from Oakdale, where you could have put something right up against the fence, and that was it. You know, I apologize to the board for doing that. You know, it was an error on my part,
Welcome
even
to
though.
Southampton from Iceland.
Say again?
Welcome to Southampton.
Yes, sir.
from
And if you look at the survey, you can see that was about the only logical place to put the carport. The property itself is a pie-shaped piece of property, and there was really no other place to put it.
There was already pavement there, the driveway.
You know, I didn't clear anything else for it, I just added the carport for it. And I really don't have anything else to say, other than the fact that, you know, I'm retired, my wife is retired. If you would not grant the variance, it would be a somewhat of a financial hardship. I would have to obviously have this removed, you know, so
Let's
that's.
get us an estimate for that.
The estimate to have removed would be somewhere in the neighborhood of about $3,000.
Why don't you have somebody write it up for you?
I can do that.
We can do that, not because we're looking to have you remove
Okay.
the structure, but so we can have on the record what the financial
It's gonna cost
impact
$5,
on you
$10
would be.
grand,
Right.
then that gives us something to stand on.
Okay.
Have you heard from your neighbor?
Yes, I heard from, not the neighbor directly, that I would say that it impacts, but my other neighbors. You can't even see this. You can't see this property. You can't see the carport from the property. You can't see it from anywhere. If you look at again at the survey, it's all wooded around there. It's, you know, it's,
Can't
like I
see
said,
in Bettina Court.
no, you can't. You can't
No,
see it at
even
all.
she can't, you know, there's woods there,
So-
and it was,
Wood area.
it followed the line of the home, you know.
Yeah,
it
if you
was
looked at
done-
if you looked at the pictures, I try to, you know,
Would you see
design it to look like the house, and if you looked at it, it looks like it was always there. Doesn't look like it's an add-on. It's not like something, I put a couple, you know, 2x4s together and slapped together a carport. It was, so.
But you thought you didn't need approvals for it, it turns out.
I did.
That you did.
I did.
And appreciate the fact that you're trying to legalize and trying to, you know, pretty much square away this issue. If you have, in the future, if you decide to build something, if there's any doubt in your mind as to whether you need a permit.
Absolutely.
definitely-
But believe me,
ask
our
the
building days are
department,
over, so it's-
Because we do encourage, we don't want people to build things without permits.
Of
We
course.
understand that sometimes it happens where people don't have, you know, it doesn't occur to them, or they rely upon contractors, and there was a contractor who you hired who should have told you. You know, I don't know whether that person was someone who does a lot of work in Southampton.
No, he does not. He is a licensed contractor, but no, he did this as a favor to me. I knew him as a contractor when I lived in Oakdale.
Yeah.
So he came out here to do this for me.
Well, he should have known. Should have checked it for you. But anyway, regardless, you know, the good news is, I'm not sure if we'll check in a second whether there's anybody here, you know, but the good news is I can't see how this is going to have a negative impact.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that very much.
on these
You want to
adjacent
entertain
properties.
Dennis's comments?
Yes, why don't we go to this? Okay, so we did get some comments from the building department. This is from Dennis O'Rourke.
Okay.
Principal Building Inspector.
Okay.
He said this, the subject property is part of the subdivision map of Patina Court. The clearing on this property is 35.4%, where the subdivision permits a maximum of 30%.
That's correct.
An approved revegetation plan or documentation from the Town Planning Division will be required prior to the issuance of a building permit.
I have contacted an attorney on this, Mr. Brian, I believe, in Southampton. Bruin in Southampton.
Okay.
He's representing me in this case. He looked over the covenant, and he said that covenant had been changed to 50% clearance, no longer 25%, but it has to be done on an individual basis. So I have retained him to talk to the town. I guess I applied, I think it was an $1,100 fee to the town to do this.
Okay.
And so they're looking into that aspect of it.
That's fine. We just want to make sure that
Yes,
you're
sir.
aware that that's another
Right.
issue, not having to do with the application.
Understood.
For us.
Right, we had a lot of those pine trees we had to cut down from that beetle.
Yeah, okay. Okay, all right.
Anybody in the audience?
Yep, is there anyone who would like to be heard this evening in connection with the application of, it's Fryban?
Fryban, yes, sir.
Fryban. This is for 6 Patina Court in Hampton Bays.
You waiting on anything?
We actually are waiting for planning commission, so actually, a letter has to go out to the Suffolk County Planning Commission that we wait for a response
Okay.
from. That's correct.
And this is for what, if you don't mind me?
It's a requirement.
Okay.
It's in the compatible growth area.
Okay,
So the
fine,
parents just have
okay.
to give us a response.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, so usually it's 30 days for them to respond.
Right.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on this decision for 2 weeks, but if we don't hear back from them in 2 weeks, then it will be our meeting in July.
Okay, whatever it takes.
So we can't actually.
You
act
don't
on the
have to come back.
Okay,
You don't have to come back, but the other thing I want to tell you is that we only have one meeting in July.
okay.
So if it turns out we don't get a response by, probably pretty quickly.
It'll go to August.
It'll go to our one meeting in July,
Okay.
which is July 18th, for decision. But I'm going to put it down for June 20th, because, who knows, maybe we'll get a quick response.
Oh, I hope so.
Okay, all right.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, so that is decision, June 20th, written subs being the Pine Barren Commission's response to our request for a response. All right, so we have a...
Do you want a cost estimate or anything for the show?
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, yes, and in addition to that, the cost estimate
For taking it down.
Taking it down.
And who would I put that to? Would I just give that to you? Okay.
Yeah.
It's gonna cost you a bill, but it's gonna cost you to get rid of it.
Okay.
Yep, and that's it, and that should take care of it.
Okay.
Okay,
I want to thank you so much.
no problem, thank you.
Thank you for your service, too.
Thank you for your support. Appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Tuthill.
Aye.
Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Mr. DeSenza. Aye. Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Yes. Because you guys had heard it, and then you had said, we need to advertise this,
Okay.
which is good, which is possibly what our,
Item 10 on the agenda, the Patricia A. Bencardino Trust, 88 Peconic Hills Drive, North Sea, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-33-1-80. On May 20, 1999, a good old 20 years ago, by decision number D-10344, this board granted the applicant a rear yard coverage of 24% for a proposed tennis court. By letter dated May 13, 29, Kiernan Pape Murphy, attorney for the applicant, submitted a letter requesting that said decision be modified to correct an error with respect to the rear yard coverage calculation.
the board has jurisdiction, so if you remember, this is one that you actually said should be posted and mailed, and so that's where we are for this.
Good evening, Karen Pape Murphy,
Mr. Daly's?
for the applicant for the owner who's here, Patricia Bernard.
Bencardino.
Bencardino. She's the owner, and she also brought her son.
Okay. And I can swear them both in if you'd like,
Okay.
okay?
He's here for more
Okay.
observation.
I know, that's good.
To see.
Okay, if you could state your names and addresses.
Patricia Bencardino, 88 Peconic Hills Drive, Southampton, New York, 11968.
Okay?
Lucas Bencardino,
David.
Peconic Hills Drive, Southampton, New York, 11968.
Okay, and do you both swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. I
Okay.
do.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
Okay, good evening. This is a request for a modification. First, I want to point out that my applicants bought the house in 1997,
22 years ago.
and there was already a pool there, and that pool house.
Yes.
So there was already, those two structures were already there. Just pointing that out, because if the pool was closer, maybe we wouldn't have to be here for a variance. So anyhow, this is kind of a hilly area, it's wooded. The variance was originally issued in 1998, and Patricia actually...
My grandmother
presented-
was the owner, but I put in the paperwork and
For the-
submitted the paperwork.
Yes.
Okay.
And the surveyor at the time was...
Was Jake
in the pa-
Buckheim.
Yeah, who worked for Dolliver, who since passed away. So
You
there was a
applied for the
mistake.
variance.
Correct.
Yes. So in the decision, which I include in the packet, they said 20 to 24%.
Yep.
But then we have a new surveyor, which you should have a large map at the end. He did the calculations, and he realized he has the existing court, which from using the fence lines, it's 114 by 54, and that ended up being 38%. But the original that was approved, we have the resized in there. I think I did a highlighted one with the corners cut off with the tennis court. That was actually 34%. So there was a mistake. And this survey that is in the packet that's out now says unofficial because he passed away, and we couldn't get it, we wanted to get a larger copy from them. But anyhow, that's why I had the new surveyor do the calculations. They referred to this December 2nd, 1998 survey that said, oh, it's just, this is what it's going to be, 50 by 110. But, it ended up being 54 by 114.9, including the fence. So anyhow, that was issued, and then they had tenants while the court was being built.
Yes,
He was
I
not
wasn't
around.
there.
He wasn't there. So it ended up, I guess there was some confusion, and the tennis court, obviously the corners didn't get cut. But then a certificate of compliance was issued in September 20th, 1999. Since then, so it's been 20 years, this house has been rented out. In the original variance, there was some neighbors who came to complain about noise, but in the 20 years, I don't think you've had any complaint about the tennis court.
No.
And also, for neighbors, the two side yard neighbors, if you look at the aerial photograph, they're not near the tennis court, and it's kind of hilly, it kind of goes up. But the two neighbors in the back
Are very friendly with me, Eileen and Myrna, and their daughter, Jamie Weiss, who is now currently the owner of the property, because they're getting on in years. And they just don't want anything done, so they're happy with me, they've been friendly with me, and they have no problem with the tennis
And she
court.
knows the other one. These are the ones that'd be most impacted, because the tennis court is 24.5 feet from the backyard neighbor, and then the neighbor that's impacted the most has 22 feet. So the 22 feet from, they have a pool there on the back, so there's 46.5 feet between the tennis court and there. And also in the original variance, there was no lighting allowed.
There is no lighting.
And there is no lighting. And so what happened is, with the new rental, I guess the rental permits, there's more thorough checking of them. So someone went there, a building inspector, though she's had several rental permits before then, and, I guess noticed the corners weren't cut off. So that's why.
The
that was
original,
here.
on the original variance, they were supposed to be cut, correct?
Yes. So that's what happened, but again.
I don't think that has any kind of, or plays to any confusion between Mr. Buckeye and the applicant.
50 by 110.
I mean, that was a condition, wasn't it a condition of the original variance 20 years ago?
Yes. So, but I also have, so I mean, the impact to the neighborhood, it's not impacting the current neighbors in the back. It is, it does have trees along the back, which I think I have a picture of. And
There's a
then,
lot
you know,
of
looked up
trees.
at the cost of getting it back to what it is. And they have two estimates, and one was for $22,575.
That's to cut the corners?
Yes, to get it back to, and the other one is for $28,459. It's probably more than what it cost 20 years ago.
This court, it's not the same court from 20 years, though.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
But it's bigger, right?
Bigger.
It's the same court
No, but it
from
was
years
supposed to be
ago.
50 by
It was supposed to be
110, right?
50,
Yeah.
yeah, it's supposed to be 50 by 110.
And then they
Yes.
measured
The
it,
corners cut, but they never cut the corners.
right. But if you look,
And that was a condition on the original variance.
the fence, I mean, the 54 feet extends beyond the actual court surface, and the 114.9 extends
Yeah,
beyond because of the fencing,
yeah.
so.
And I think Keith is talking about something having to do with consistency with our board. If we render a decision on something and it turns out that what's built is different than what was approved, we generally are reluctant, absent a unique change in circumstances, to vary what was decided, even though it was a very long time ago. But I'm just, mentioning that as
No, I
a
understand.
concern. I'm not sure, where.
The percentage of coverage now is going to be what?
It is going to be 38%, which is for,
The last time we granted 38%.
very rarely.
I-
The only time we grant really high tennis court percentages for rear yard lot coverage is usually when it is vacant land surrounding it.
I have a decision that I did, I was here
Yeah.
before the board, that I put in the packet.
How
You
big
know,
was that
being
tennis
south of the highway, you could go to 35%.
I know, but how big was that tennis court?
They allowed them to, they couldn't decide. So they said as long as it would go past 35%. But it was the same situation, it was a house and pool, and if the
But the
pool had
court
been
wasn't bigger
closer,
than 55 by 110.
I would have to, the way the decision was written, it said you can go larger than 35%. So, I mean, I can get that
Well, and
application.
it may be that something about what was going on in the surrounding properties may have been a rationale, but feel free to submit
It was,
the
it was
decision.
open fields. I mean, it was next to the horse farm.
It's-
Right.
Yeah, it's
And-
vacant
Right,
to the left
right.
of me and to the right of me.
Okay,
But, that's someone who was in the R60 zone
okay.
and got
And it's in the record, do
35%.
we have a
Can you look up
a
and tell me-
CO for the garage and the pool? In the record, in our file, is there a CO for the garage and the pool in there? Because that was also a condition of the original variance from May 20, 1999.
There is a CO for a garage and storage issued June 11th, 1999.
How about a pool? Let me just
And
read
hot
for the
tub
record.
or
It
attic.
says, condition, there will be no outdoor lighting before or on the tennis court for nighttime use, which the applicant has said there is no lighting out there. The tennis court shall be buffered on all sides by landscape plantings of no less than 5 foot tall. Further, this determination is conditioned on the applicant acquiring a certificate of occupancy for the garage and pool. No building permit for the proposed tennis court shall be issued prior to obtaining these certificates of occupancy. So I'm just wondering, you've said that we have one for the garage, but I'm
The
wondering
only,
if,
the only one I see for a pool is from October 5th of 1981.
Which is a long time before the decision.
A long time before the decision.
Well, maybe they didn't have it
This
in
was
the file.
1999.
Yeah, maybe it wasn't, yeah, that was before, yeah,
when was
Everything
the
was
tennis
scanned.
court built?
1999. It's a CO.
You got a building permit for that, right? Jane, you got one?
I just had a certificate of
The application
compliance.
for the pool was in 81.
Was in 81.
It was no.
But I mean-
You could do it or anything like that.
Yeah, yeah.
How about, did you have somebody, if you cut the corners now, have you had somebody calculate what the coverage would be if the corners were cut?
If the corners, if we went back to the original, cutting the corners, moving the fence, it would be 34%. That's what was actually in the survey that you looked at in the original variance, but they said 24%, maybe it was a typo.
But even with this larger court,
What, I'm sorry?
Keith is asking how much would it cost to cut the corners now? And
Oh,
you're-
I have two,
But then you kind of went back to that it would be 34%. But what I'm trying to figure it out is even if you cut the corners now, it couldn't, would it go down to 34% because the initial?
yeah, because they make it smaller, if you
50 by
look.
110.
If you look, it's smaller, and also, the 54 is, I don't have a ruler with me, but if you look, it's for the fence. It's not the court, but that's, I don't know, the fence isn't coverage, but I could get the surveyor to measure, maybe it's not 54, maybe it's,
I guess I just don't understand. How'd they build a tennis court that was this large even if Jake's calculations were wrong and the lot coverage was wrong? How did they build a 115 by 54 tennis court when this says 110 by 50? Like it says it. Are you saying they scaled it out?
no, that's just in the, we do the calculations. It's the same thing, he just surveyor didn't do the calculations correctly for.
I think Kate's question is, how did the court get to be 54 by 114, when the survey that was approved for the variance was 50 by 110?
And it says it, the survey says 50 by 110.
Well, there was a problem with the contractor at the time. My grandmother had a problem with the contractor. He was supposed to come back and cut it down and fix it, but he went bankrupt, and my grandmother tried to go after him, but there was no recourse. It was a terrible incident. It was, not pleasant.
Yeah.
I have two concerns. My first concern is there was a survey attached to the variance that said 50 by 110.
Right, and he had
If
that.
you came here today and asked for relief, you wouldn't get a court bigger than 55 by 110. And the court's bigger than that.
No,
It's
this is
54. It's
by
fif-
114.
By 114, it's a bigger court.
114, yeah.
0.9.
Yeah.
So that's my concern, and even Candace looked up the variance where you submitted, which you guys got you put in that says does not exceed 35, and that court is 55 by 110.
55 by- So then,
So like we've always,
Maybe-
I've been here
Yes.
11 years, never granted a court, regardless of setback or lot coverage, bigger than 55 by 110,
When a variance is required.
when a variance is required.
well then,
So
maybe they could cut it down to 110?
I have two problems. One, I have that you didn't build what the variance was,
Right,
and that's the first hurdle.
right.
And I don't know if we get past that, I gotta see what the board says. And the second is, it's a court bigger than would be granted if you came here as a proposed application.
Right.
Right,
So that's,
Plus, they were supposed to cut the corners, right, too.
yeah, yeah.
But I mean, I think it would be cheap, I could find out, but it would be probably cheaper to get it down to 110 than to cut the corners. Because then you're just moving the fence and you're just taking off. I don't know.
Well, the whole thing that they said that you have to move the fence too, so it becomes very cost prohibitive. It's a real problem financially. I'm on disability and.
Well, and I appreciate the fact that you're here to try to rectify it. I do,
Yes.
but it is a tricky one for us because of this prior variance. Even though it was from a long time ago,
Yeah.
we try to be consistent. We try to, even if the circumstances were a little bit different way back then, we try not to, if there was a prior decision, we have to really be persuaded to veer away from whatever conclusion was reached at that time. So I'm trying to get the sense of where the other board members are, but I think, I
And I
think
have-
55 by, I think what, the size that was originally approved is probably what has 4 votes in terms of the tennis court.
I just don't see any other way around.
I mean, the concern is, if we were to grant it, it puts us at a disadvantage because we grant variances if people then go build more than that and just come back later.
You can't come back in another 6 months with an application for a tennis court and say, oh, you granted that person. Bernardino Trust, you granted them.
No. Well, then let's.
Oh, if you
well,
don't
let's
do
make
it, John Bennett will do it, Wayne will do it, somebody's gonna do it.
No,
You
but,
know
okay,
that.
you said the largest was 55 by 110, so we have 54 by 114, so maybe make it 54 by 110.
Yeah, but
That way it fits in.
But the other factor is the prior variance. That's what's different here.
But the thing is, it's been 20 years. I mean, everything's grown, everything's developed. There's nobody adjacent to this, if you look at the
On
aerial
either side.
photograph.
I understand.
And the back, there's a pool, which is probably noisier than a tennis court, because that can be lit up and used all night.
Okay, so
I gotta think about it.
Yeah,
It's difficult for us.
Yeah, I
You
understand.
can understand.
But at least if we could get something, I mean, it has to be a little bit cheaper. I would think, if not having to cut off the corners, just make it like 100 and,
It's gonna be expensive
10.
anyway. for me.
I can tell you, you don't have the votes to keep it as is right now.
right, so now we have
Something's
to,
gonna change.
so now we're trying to
So
get
it's gonna
something
change.
here.
Right.
Okay.
So
That's
maybe-
where
Trying to
we're
get something.
Right. So maybe what we want to do is to.
Maybe
put it
see
over-
that on a survey,
Put it over,
see
and
where
you
we're
can
at.
work with Karen about what's the most economical alternate proposal that you think would work under the circumstances.
Well,
And I
if
can't
you don't have the
guarantee-
votes, you're going to have to go back to, you're going to have to go back to what originally was approved, which was 50 by 110.
Okay, so can we get the 55 or?
Well, that's what I was saying, maybe
It's not
get
55,
100.
it's 54.
Right.
Court, it's 54.
Yeah,
But that's, I mean, you
Yeah.
can put the fence closer, that's gotta be at least a foot, but I'm just saying, instead of having to cut all four corners, it's gotta be
Yeah,
easier to
yeah.
just
Anybody here
slice
tonight?
it.
Let's see.
Sure.
Nobody's here?
We can ask.
You know, if we just slice the ends to
Sure,
110.
Just want to ask if there is anyone from the public, is there anyone from the public who would like to be heard this evening in connection with the application of the Patricia A. Bernardino Trust for 88 Peconic Hills Drive in North Sea? Okay, there is not. So what I'm thinking is we put it over for you to figure out what you want to propose. Because it has to be changed. And the question
Okay.
is what is, because I don't think there's support for.
What's the least impactful economically or otherwise? I mean, you're gonna have to find that out and get us
Okay.
a survey, and we're gonna wanna see the percentages on that survey to see.
Yep.
Smaller.
So just for the record, I did not see a certificate for the pool
Right.
after
Right.
1999 variance, but there is one in 1981.
In 1981, so
why they
that's another,
access, yeah.
that's another issue. I mean, for the most part, we want a prior variance to be complied with.
It's a different pool.
It may be a different pool.
No, it's
It
the
looks
same.
very
Same
similar
pool?
on the
Okay.
two surveys.
And then
I'm
I'm
not
just
sure.
confused why
Same
in
pool.
1999 that there was a condition about getting a certificate for the pool.
I
That's,
just researched that and
Yeah.
see if she could find.
Is it for the hot tub?
No, the hot tub has its own seal in
yeah,
2011.
yeah,
Oh, see, the hot tub has a CO.
okay,
I mean, that's,
all right.
you never see that.
Yeah.
It's the
And-
same existing pool, and I've had the same pool man since I bought the house.
Okay, all right. So the other question is how much time you think you're going to need, and our schedule an issue, because we only have one meeting in July 18th. June 20th may be too soon for you to come back, I don't know.
June 20th is, you're going to get the surveyor?
Yeah, that's so.
Okay. All right, we'll come back on June 20th.
Okay,
And maybe I'll find out about the building permit, how they got a building permit.
okay.
Maybe it was smaller, I don't know.
And they get a CFC on it.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering, yeah.
One of my main concerns is just the fact that the conditions of the original variance was
Right.
kept.
Right. So we want to, see that can be done.
I understand.
Okay. All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for coming.
All right, so who has the lead on this one?
Michael?
Mike?
So we're going to keep this open and see you again on June 20th.
Yep.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Daly?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Mr. DeSessa?
Aye.
Mr. Hahn?
Right?
Mr. Tudhill?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Okay, so we have item 11 on the agenda, which is William Perino, 12 Nash Road in Flanders, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-123-3-19. Applicant requests relief from Town Code 330-115C, continuance for a principal front yard setback of 17 feet, where 21.5 feet is existing for a proposed covered stoop, and 330-84D, pier and height, for an encroachment in the amount of 3,694 cubic feet for a proposed second-story addition to the existing dwelling on a non-conforming lot.
This is a holdover application.
Oh, it is.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
We have jurisdiction, I presume?
It's a holdover.
It's a holdover, so we don't have to worry about that. Okay. All right, so if you can give us an update as to where we are.
Sure. We,
I need to swear, okay.
Sorry.
Okay. If you can state your name and address.
Anthony Portillo, A&P Architecture, 15400 Main Road, Mattituck, New York, 11952.
Okay, and do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
And then please spell last name for me.
Portillo, P as in Paul, O-R-T-I-L-L-O. Brooke Epperson was here from my office last time, and the architect that is designing the building. We did listen to your comments from the last board meeting, and we removed the dormers on the side of where the encroachment is, and we put the dormer to the rear for that back bedroom, and we just added skylights under the mansard roof to at least allow some natural light and ventilation. So it would be an operable skylight on that side. So that was what we thought would be the best way to relieve some of the overage on the non-conformance.
Yep, okay.
What's the cubic footage now? Encroachment?
Unfortunately, I was looking at that, and it's still stating the same on my plans. So I think we recalculated. No, I'm sorry.
No.
It's reduced by 369 cubic feet.
369.
Yeah, 369. Sorry.
Reduced by 369.
869
869.
cubic
You're
feet.
getting better.
Reduced, or that's the total?
That's the reduced amount.
So what's the total?
Total's 2,825.
2,008.
I just want to make a few statements on this property. The house has been in foreclosure for a long time. The person that bought it is looking to build something nice on the property, and I think it fits into what's going on in the neighborhood, which I think there's a little bit of development after Hurricane Sandy. I'm from Mattituck, I know Flanders pretty well. I believe I also attempted to reduce the scale of the building by, instead of building a full two-story building, we designed a mansard roof that really the second floor is under the roof. It is a non-conforming lot, and we are staying within the footprint that's existing. So we're not adding anything, we're not trying to provide an addition. And so I think the design is one of the best approaches for what we're trying to do, is get a second floor on the building. Currently, there is 3 bedrooms in the home, so we're not increasing bedrooms. We're just trying to make it a little more livable on the first floor and bring the bedrooms to the second floor.
It's an extremely small lot, 6,000 square feet, very small. So you have some real challenges to live up to Pyramid.
Have you talked to the neighbors?
We have. I know I received a phone call from one of the neighbors. Supposedly there's a petition of neighbors that are against this. And the reasonings I don't really want to bring up, but I thought they were a little disturbing. And basically it's about that they believe the person that bought the home is going to rent it, and possibly to misfortunate people that might bring many occupants onto the property. And that's their concern, from my understanding, from this neighbor who called me. I also have a supporting letter from another neighbor. I don't know, she told me she was going to submit it, but did you get the...
Lauren or Lori?
Laura, yeah.
Yes, they have a copy of it.
So this is a neighbor that's supporting it. They're unhappy with
the condition of what the home is in now and thinks that the design is nice and is okay with it being there. The neighbor that called me also supported it, but I did not receive a letter. He did not sign the petition, by the way. So I was a little disturbed by that information. The intent of this is not to rent it. It might be to sell it, but I think the owner of the property is actually going to occupy it. His daughter lives in Riverhead, and she has 3 daughters, so his granddaughters live there as well. So he's currently in Queens and wants to have a place to be out here. Okay.
Well,
See if anybody's here.
absolutely, and appreciate the effort that was put into this to reduce the pyramid.
We're just going to need a corrected set, depending on.
I believe it's on here. I made a mistake. The issue I saw was
I got it. Yeah,
on the
it's
plan
there.
was incorrect.
Yeah. Let's see if anybody's here.
Okay, is there anyone who'd like to be heard this evening in connection with the application of Carino? This is for 12 Nash Road in Flanders. Okay, all right, we need to have you come on up. You can either have a seat or go to the podium, whatever you prefer. Okay.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay.
And if you weren't previously sworn in, I have to swear you in tonight.
I'm a lawyer.
You were sworn, you're an attorney. Okay, then I know.
We're swearing in twice.
Okay.
I swear.
Okay. Why don't
About this gentleman?
Yeah, we didn't, that's fine.
Well,
It should go first. Should I go first? or-
No, he wants to swear you in.
Oh, by all means.
Yeah, if you weren't sworn in previously, I just need to swear you.
Oh,
in.
sure.
Okay, if you can state your name and address.
My name is Paul Mochek. I live at 17 Nash Avenue in Flanders.
Okay, and do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you. All right, if you can tell us,
Paul, do you border this property?
I'm across the street from it.
Okay.
Okay.
How do you
And
spell your last name?
and I'm next to Paul.
Paul, how do you spell your last name?
WOJCIK.
Okay, so I'm hoping you heard what the prior testimony was by the agent.
I understand that he made adjustments to maybe make it more conforming, but we still think that, at least I do, and many of my neighbors who signed this petition, which I'd like to submit, was 8 of us all together, including Paul and including myself. I mean, I didn't have a lot of
And you
time
can submit
to
it to our
gather
attorney.
the signatures, but here they are.
Yep.
We just think that the property is very small. You know, there is 3 bedrooms already there. To make a second floor will only encourage a higher occupancy home. We have problems with high occupancy homes in the area. And this is an undesirable effect in our neighborhood. The problem in allowing the non-conforming expansion is that once the home is allowed to be built up, there's no control of how many people move in, which is what our problem is in the neighborhood. Maybe not now, but maybe in the future, there's 2 big, huge rooms up there with a bathroom that now each room can house a family, because this is what happens. If the buyer wanted a larger home, they could have bought one. There's many houses in our neighborhood that have larger lots and larger homes on it. And just the problem with allowing a larger home on such a small lot is lack of enforcement on the number of families that live at the house. I took a few pictures to show you what happens. And the front yards of these homes that are larger, that are on larger lots, become parking lots. The front yards become parking lots. And I'd like to submit copies of these because this is what is happening in our neighborhood, and there's no control and there's no enforcement or protection to ensure.
We're not an enforcement board, just so you know.
I understand that,
We're not code enforcement, huh?
but if you approve it, you approve to override the law, then somebody has to be able to enforce it.
When you say override the law,
Yeah.
we're the zoning board of appeals, we hear applications for variances from the zoning code.
Zoning code.
So every time we approve a variance, it is varying the code.
It's
It is varying the code. It's
That's correct.
That's, part of what we do. And we have to listen to both sides. We have to listen to what neighbors' concerns are, because that's part of what we have to consider, but we have to consider the area variance standards, the 5-part test.
Okay. Well, also in the area, it is a Bayview Pines community, it's a beach community. When I bought my property, because it was not a high occupancy, it's not built up like Brooklyn or Queens or any of those areas, that are becoming just like cement. We don't want to live with cement and houses built up around the properties and not sufficient parking and not sufficient land to house the property. And I'm just asking you again to help preserve the neighborhood by not allowing homeowners the ability to override the laws, the codes, and at the expense of those who want to continue living in a peaceful, clean, and a quiet neighborhood. We want to live in a low occupancy neighborhood, which can only be accomplished by restraining unwanted growth whenever and wherever possible. By allowing the growth, it just allows more growth. And that's one of the things that we can do to preserve our island, is to conserve on the growth. So I again ask that you help preserve our Baby Pines community, which has been in existence for over 60 years. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments.
Okay, I'm the resident of 17 Nash, across the street from 12 Nash, the property that's being addressed. I may I add, I've never appeared before a town zoning board before, but I was compelled to do so over this issue. I would like to take this opportunity to state my sense of urgency that the body, that the original structure needs to be maintained as is. In other words, no upward or outward expansion of the property, of the structure. We wish to see the present size and resident density to remain intact. The proposed changes would create an undesirable effect on the street. We would negatively impact the nearby properties, including my own. Relief from the setbacks requirements for a converted stoop would mean that the house would be closer to the street. And we are concerned about noise and people entering and leaving the house. May I add that all houses on the street remain at the same distances from the street, approximately 21.5 feet from the street. This would be an exception to the rule. As far as I can eyeball it, I did not go and measure every house, but it appears.
Clear for our record, the house is staying on the same, the proposed house is to be on the same foundation, and they're just adding a covered porch to the front. So no living space is coming any closer to the street, under the current proposal.
All right, but from my judgment, all houses seem to be about that 21.5 feet from the street. None of them seem to be extending further than that. They all seem to be pretty lined up about the same. This would be a break from that rule.
Do other properties have covered your front stoops or entranceways? Do other houses have
Many of them have porches.
I would think some of them, yes.
I'd like to mention too, across the street, which I'm not sure if it's either one of y'all houses, but they're two full-story homes.
Yeah,
They're
they're
not
also
single
double
story.
Okay, but they're on much bigger
I
pieces of
understand that,
property.
but they're not single story with a roof, which, again, we're sitting on the top plate of the first
Okay.
floor.
And I want this gentleman just to, I
Sorry,
appreciate
I
that, but I want you to finish your comments and.
Okay, but I add that those properties are much larger pieces of land than the one where, than 12 Nash.
Okay.
All right,
And, I also want to mention, we're concerned about what you're talking about, which is why we asked the applicant to change the relief. We thought the pyramid relief was too much, and it has been reduced. Now, it may not be reduced to an amount that's satisfactory to you, but, it has been reduced, and the only other relief that's being requested is this relief for the covered stoop. So, anyway. you can-
okay, well, that's part of the concern that I'm addressing. I'm
Yeah.
trying to, all right, true, there are structures of that nature, but they're not not that close to the road. All right, so, and that's the other half of it. I mean,
So if you had a choice, you would want to just have them leave the house that's currently there.
intact the way it is.
Exactly the way it is.
And you, I mean,
I'll fix it up, though. It's been worse.
all right. We're also very concerned about the building of the additional story to the house and the number of people living there and the parked vehicles in that small driveway. We have problems with people parking on the lawn. It's becoming an epidemic in that neighborhood. I mean, and nobody does anything about it, and it becomes a way of life, and it becomes accepted. And as Lorraine pointed out, they pave part of the lawn, and they suddenly improvise an additional parking area. All right, we're not against improving the houses in the neighborhood, but there have been issues where we have many parked cars and garbage disposal have become overwhelming. We are trying to head this off because we do not want to deal with code enforcement in the future regarding this property. and we're already saddled with these concerns in connection with 244 Long Neck Boulevard, which is on the corner of Long Neck and Nash. That's the property immediately next to 12 Nash, the property in question. And we're concerned that we're going to have similar concerns with this situation. It's not uncommon to have 6 cars parked in the driveway and on the lawn in that property, right next to your 12 Nash. And we're concerned that this is going to extend to another house, to yet another house in the neighborhood. And these are my primary concerns.
May I also ask, I believe one of you guys had requested last time about parking, that there was insufficient parking for the 3, somebody had said that?
Well, we talked about parking, but it doesn't sound like they're adding any other bedrooms. So if there's not adding any other bedrooms, they don't.
I don't know what the requirements
Well,
are. I know that somebody said something about it at the last hearing.
Yeah, well, Keith had made a note about it. But again, the house has a CO, and if they're not adding bedrooms, they don't need to show any other,
Well, how many parking spaces do they have to have?
I think there's 3 bedrooms, so I think we went through this last time. I think it was 2 spots, right, Candace? Yeah.
Yeah,
A single-family home.
And they're not asking for relief, so this is just what
So they have to
the
put
current
2
current
parking
code requires.
spaces on the
And are there 2 parking spaces on the
There's
property?
there's a driveway to the right or existing that has 2 parking spaces. And actually, there was a boat.
I don't think there's 2 parking spaces.
Oh, yeah, there's 2 back to back, but there was a boat back there,
Well,
actually.
that's the
and
backyard, though.
The boat's been removed. It's been sitting there for years now. I mean, I feel like the owner of the property is trying to make the property better already for what he can do. This is hindering him from doing that right now, so.
I don't know how deep the driveway is.
Oh, well,
Again, I think that would.
The driveway certainly isn't, is it wide enough to accommodate
The
2
house-
cars?
Right now, the house has this, the parking's not an issue. The house has a CO, it has 3 bedrooms, he's not adding any more bedrooms, so you
It
don't.
doesn't need anything
No.
on that. Okay.
And I don't know if you looked at the plans totally, but the second floor actually has like a cathedral, so we're not using all the square footage on the second floor. So it's really creating like a cathedral space for the first floor, just to make it feel a little bigger in there, since it's a pretty, not wide space.
What do you say, you're not adding additional rooms?
Bedrooms.
We're not adding additional bedrooms, and
just
part
put
of the
them
second
upstairs.
floor is cathedral, so.
Have you seen a set of the plans?
I haven't seen that part.
Sure, you could have my set.
Okay.
So this portion of the house, just so you understand, this is open to below. It's not like it's not part of the square footage.
Yeah, because I'm getting that your concern is that it's increasing bedrooms.
They're putting the 2 bedrooms upstairs.
The number of people occupying the building.
Well, 'cause-
It's gonna be the same number of bedrooms,
Right,
it's
'cause-
gonna be bigger, and it's gonna be a second floor.
Well, the current condition of the house is a very tiny kitchen, a very tiny living space. So without increasing, going vertically out, right? Horizontally out, we have to put the bedrooms upstairs to get an actual living space that's usable for.
How many square feet is the total house proposed?
Proposed, let me look on. We have a total square footage, 1,125. So the existing is 1,125 square feet, and then the addition being added. I'm sorry, I don't have the full set with me. It's about 1,000, here it is, 1,025 added, so.
Doubling the space.
It'll be a 2,000, well, downstairs has a mudroom area in the back that's existing. I'm not adding that.
Yeah.
The
So-
2,150 is what it'll
The
end up.
2,125.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, yes, 150.
Yeah. So it doesn't sound like the changes that were made to the application are satisfactory to you, so we just have to.
We're gonna make a
render
decision.
That's all.
I want to add that, true, you have a driveway that extends probably the length of the house, but it's a one-lane driveway. So cars would have to park back to back.
It's residential, though.
Okay,
Commercial,
all right,
you're
all right.
required to
Now,
separate
because
parking.
the great temptation is to park on the lawn when you get that situation, because I've lived through it. Right?
If I might just, I listened to you folks for a couple nights now, And I.
This is my first time here.
Whatever, not her first night here. She had a green folder last time. But anyhow, what I'm hearing from you guys, what I think I'm hearing is you guys have some discontent with the neighborhood up there, or whatever. You know, we said last time that we're not code enforcement. We said it again tonight. So I'm just saying, if you guys got some problems in the hood, then call the town, get them up there.
Well, if it was that easy, of course it would be taken care of, wouldn't it have been?
Well, I'm just saying, that's what I'm
If the town
hearing.
could take care of it.
And meanwhile,
we
they're
would have
trying
it
to do
taken
something
care
with a
of,
nice
then-
house,
Well, there's no reason that that nice house
and
can't.
I'm hearing, well, they're gonna be parking all over the lawn, there's gonna be more cars or whatever.
We don't want our
Whatever,
neighborhood to look like
I
Brooklyn,
just,
that's all.
I understand, I'm just saying, just so you know, that's what I hear from what I've been hearing, is your displeasure with
More
the
to it than
neighborhood.
just the neighborhood, it's our street that
So
we're
you're
talking
telling me that you go to code enforcement and they don't do anything for you?
about. Yes, sir.
Go to the supervisor's office.
Oh, I can tell you that the owner is gonna build a really nice house. I mean, he's looking to make it a nice place to live. It's
We
not,
don't doubt that.
it's not gonna
It's
be,
whether, what happens in the future.
But he is entitled to rent it out as well. I mean, there's nothing in
Right.
the town that requires you to live in the house that you build. And, I mean, obviously, like you said, there are requirements on how many people can rent it and the duration and the parking and everything like that.
There's that
but-
house right next to this house, there is at least 6 families living in the
Yeah, but
house.
that's not the applicant.
I understand that, but this is what happens when you allow houses to expand. Everybody takes a bedroom, a family takes a bedroom, because there's no housing in Southampton.
But I
Or there's limited
can't
housing.
render a decision on a possibility because the next door neighbor's doing something illegal. I can't assume that.
I'm not asking you
You
to.
got a
I'm-
crystal
Well, I mean,
ball?
You
that's
gotta
what-
take it
that's
into
what-
account, yeah, you should take it into
Okay,
account.
Mr. Kelly?
And that's all I'm asking you to do.
Thank you. But part of why I say what I say is because if you have displeasure, you should be able to get response out of the town. But
I
you say
agree
you
with you,
can't.
I agree, yes, the town should be taking care of it, but they cannot. Their hands are tied.
Okay, Mr. Kelly has the application.
We
Listen,
do,
what
we
I want
appreciate all
is
your
I want
comments.
a new
Okay.
calculation of pyramid height relief. I want it on paper, we gotta have it on paper.
no, it's here. I apologize. I was.
Huh?
Candace, we
It's-
have
it's
it.
on.
He thought he didn't, but he does.
He does, he does.
He gave us
Oh, yeah,
2
we
weeks.
need a
We have
submission.
it, we have
We need a
it.
submission.
We have it.
We have it.
We have
have it.
we have it in
All right, we've
the
heard all sides. We're gonna
You want,
take
you
all
want to say
that.
something?
revised.
Come on up, it's getting late,
Sorry.
let's move it along.
I mean, I don't
What's the
have-
number?
I don't have it in front of me. 2,825.
2825 coming down?
Okay. Were you here previously?
No.
Okay, then I swear you in. You can state your name and address.
My name is Vicki Wojcik, 17 Nash Avenue,
This is my wife.
Flanders.
Okay, and do you
We're
swear?
married.
Okay, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay. Vicki, tell us what you'd like to tell us.
Well, my concern is they are basically requesting to double the square feet of this structure, and I think that is a considerable amount. While I understand that they are saying that it will not be more than 3 bedrooms, it is practically doubling the size of the house, and it's still not clear to me whether or not they're requesting the variance for the setback, because the setback.
They are for the covered porch.
For the covered
For the
porch.
covered porch, so you're going where the covered porch is going to be, instead of
21.5, it'll be 17.
21.5, it's going to be 17, that's 4 feet, where people will enter the house, the covered porch will be 4 feet closer to the street, that's my understanding, so that's the reason why my husband raised the issue of people, as they enter and leave the premises, that's going to be an increase possibly in the noise as people enter and leave the house, because they're closer to the street. So I.
Covered porch is a common amenity. You have one on your house? You got one on your house?
I do.
You got one on your house? Covered porch? You mean it's a common?
But it's.
But we're
setback-
within the right feet
But-
from the street.
Yeah, but the
That's the
the
difference.
setback is
You
not.
just can't disregard that. I mean, that's the issue we're arguing. is
You know how
that-
many covered porches that we've given
But,
the people in the town of
but did you have to
Southampton?
do a
Your problem's
variance.
not with the covered porch, your problem's gonna be with, potentially, the double the size of the building. That's what your problem is.
So,
It's not about a covered porch, so you
Thank
can
everyone.
get into your home without getting rained on, or snowed on, or whatever
Well,
else.
if you double the size of the
Yeah.
the occupancy, then more people are
well,
going to
or
be coming
just
and
double
going.
the size, that's my concern. So thank you very much for,
Thank you all for coming.
Thanks. Okay.
Well, thank you.
Appreciate all your comments.
thank you very much.
Second.
Okay.
All right, do you want this back?
Well, you can hold on to it.
All right,
so
thank you.
can hold on. Yeah,
All
absolutely.
right.
Okay, Mr.
Ms. Cowell makes me.
What'd you say, Mr. Kelly? I didn't hear you.
It's not for decision for June 20th.
Thank you very much.
That was seconded?
Yes.
It was seconded. Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Mr. DeSessa.
Well,
Mr.
thank
Daly.
Aye.
Have a good night.
Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
You don't have to
Thank you
come on
all.
the 20th?
I don't have to come?
Thank you.
Nope.
They'll be decided by then. All
Well, we will
right.
make it, we will discuss and decide, but no more input that night.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
All right. But I can't come if I wish.
Of course.
Feel free.
absolutely.
Feel free. More the
Thank you very
merrier.
much. It was a
Absolutely.
pleasure.
Thank you.
Meeting you.
No problem.
great
Thank you.
night.
You too.
I did have this.
Okay, so we have another modification request.
The theme tonight. Oof. Another
We
theme.
don't have a porch.
I hope it pours. 180 Point Mecox LLC, 180 Point Mecox Lane in Bridgehampton, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-134-1-56.1. On May 19, 1989, this board granted a rear yard to 15 feet for an accessory structure. By letter dated May 9, 2019, Ron Friedman, managing member of 180 Point Mecox LLC, is requesting that said decision be amended to include a new survey by Squires Holden, Weezer, and Smith dated October 13, 2015, last revised November 7, 2018, which shows the location of a proposed two-story dwelling with attached decks and a proposed swimming pool with attached spa and deck.
Okay. Good evening. Good evening. All right. Is this one where we're not swearing people in and just
Correct.
taking
This
testimony?
is just, I think this is his opportunity to kind of tell you what he's looking for, and then the board can decide if you can do it by way of a modification, or if you want him to, get a new application, or if you want him to notice the neighbors like we did for here, and it depends on what the change is.
Okay. So maybe you can tell us a little bit
Tell us what the
about
change is.
What you're looking to do.
So we purchased this house. I purchased.
Also, you can just state your name.
My name is Ronald Friedman.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
An attorney?
We're
I'm
not
not
swearing
an
in
attorney.
because it's not a hearing.
All right.
Purchased the house 4.5 years ago. As you heard, there's an existing variance for an accessory structure within 15 feet of the rear yard. Because it's on the wetland, the rear yard's technically the front yard. The way the house is situated off Point Mecox. We've been working with Marty Shea and the Conservation Board for the better part of 4.5 years. We thought it'd be about 2 years, so it's 2.5 plus years.
Why do we believe that?
And Marty was insistent upon the pool being 100 feet, not 99 and a half or 99 and 3/4, but 100 or more. So we managed to get the pool within 100 feet and still maintain the 15-foot setback. In order to do that, we had to remove the pool house, which is existing and which was approved under the old variance. So we were able to get the pool in, still maintain a 15-foot setback. And we received the Conservation Board approval approximately 6 months ago. And I'll make a couple of comments since we have had many discussions with neighbors around. As you can imagine, in the 4.5 years, they had an interest in it, and then we met with all the neighbors, and we were able to satisfy the main affected neighbor across the street because they were concerned in general about the house and some of the changes. And what we were able to do is we came up with an agreement with the neighbor in which we agreed to screen the whole front area so they won't see the pool, see any of the decks or anything else, which the existing screening doesn't really exist. And we also agreed to put up a sound attenuation fence up there which is the first time that we've ever agreed to something like that, but we agreed to it. We formalized the agreement, and we actually filed it with the county in March, so it's to perpetuity. It's not, we can satisfy them now, and
But does something new need a variance, or you're just swapping out a survey? Does everything conforms?
everything else conforms completely. There's nothing else that needs a variance. It's the same accessory structure.
The same
We-
accessory structure has the same 15-foot setback. It's
Same
just-
everything.
It's just that everything inside has been reconfigured.
Pretty much, yeah.
But if
Everything
you went
else,
to the building department, they would say, this permit, this survey doesn't match the con board permit.
correct. That's the
The
only.
con board survey, I mean.
Correct. That's the only difference, is that the survey, as it relates to the accessory structure setback, is the only thing that doesn't conform. All other setbacks conform, and it's essentially, we essentially kept the pool where it was, just had to move it back a little bit and remove the pool house. So what exists is a pool house and a pool. What's going to exist is just a pool, essentially in the exact same spot. As a matter of fact,
So then you don't even need the variance for the accessory structure, because there's nothing there?
Candace, I think, might want to chime in here.
No, it looks like the pool, the pool house was at 15 feet.
Right,
Marty, it sounds like what he's saying is Marty said the pool has to be at 100,
right,
so they eliminated the pool house and put the pool at the setback of 15 feet.
right. But that's what I'm saying. So what do you need the variance
well, I
for?
think it's for the pool is considered an accessory
No, it's in the
structure.
old, it was in the old variant.
I just wanted to clarify, make sure I understand. So you said the pool house, was it constructed or was never constructed?
No, it was. The pool house is there now. We're going to be demolishing it.
I just want to make sure that's about the.
So you want the 15-foot variance that used to be for a pool house, now you want it to be for the pool?
Correct, although the pool and the pool house were within the variance, so the setback was
just
different, but they were
keeping the
all
same
within the
line.
variance. The pool needed a variance regardless
But
of
the
whether the
pool
pool
house
house
is
was
gone.
there.
So we're
Yeah.
swapping out
It will
one
be gone.
structure for another with the same
Same
setback.
Exactly.
So it sounds like you're asking for less then.
I am, actually, it is less, because I just happened to jot down a few things while I was
Keith says if Marty's happy.
While I was patiently waiting
That in
here.
one.
After many years,
He used to say that all the time.
usually in permitting, after many years, you usually get a lot more. We went backwards. We were better off stopping while we were ahead. We went backwards over 4 years. So we end up with a lot coverage that's less than what the existing house is right now. Where the pool and the existing structure that's on there is about 1,200 square feet. We're going to just a pool of about 550 square feet. So that's what's sitting there, and that's what we're going to.
So I just want to add, I appreciate the fact that you're trying to get everything to be, approved and be satisfactory, and you've spent an awful lot of time dealing with this, sounds like. So,
That's an understatement.
in my view, especially considering that we're not talking about increasing variance relief in terms of a setback or something else, I think this should just be a straight modification. The only question is whether, we want to do anything in terms of, notifying neighbors or putting it on the agenda for another meeting, or whether we just want to issue a modification decision.
I'm good with just the modification decision.
I agree. Just a modification would be fine by me.
Okay, that is one.
Let's
two,
get it
three.
done.
Okay, let's get it done. All right, so someone's got to write it then, and I'm the lead on it, so.
I'll write it.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, so I would move that we.
I feel like it's going to take.
Actually, no, we don't have to move on anything. This is just pretty much
Yeah, we'll just add it to the decision calendar.
the citizens' calendar for the next meeting.
The
Okay.
next meeting?
Don't come back again, or you'll just end up.
Don't
with a
worry about it.
trailer
There's
on-
nobody else here.
A trailer and a kiddie
Last
pool
pool
on
also.
the way.
No, there's somebody there, maybe
You
that
see
somebody
some
wants
of
to
the gray hair
complain.
that I've gotten over
You here to
the
complain?
He brought some ammunition in case I needed it.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Have a great night.
And thanks for waiting for us. My pleasure. Yeah.
All right, before we move into the decisions,
You talking about the email?
yep, well, before we move into decisions, I just wanted to talk to you about establishing a policy for these type of modifications and amendments, because they have become more frequent, because the way that we're doing it right now, we thought would facilitate things, because usually they were easy. They made sense, and they were moderate, and now they're getting more and more confusing, and we don't swear them in, and we don't have any, we don't have any sworn testimony, and if we were to deny it, I don't even know how I could transcribe something, because we have no, like, record of it.
Yeah.
So I wanted to just run it by you guys, the way that we're doing it right now, Candace, correct me if I'm wrong, is if you have a modification request or an amendment request, you pay a $75 fee, $100 fee. So, and then we've been doing it this way. What I would recommend, or what I'd like you to consider, is that, they continue to pay that modest fee, but that we just, right off the bat, advertise it, have them post and mail it so that everybody knows that something's happening. And that way, when they come in, and they know right away, so they don't have to wait, we don't get hit with this the day before or the day of the meeting. And that way, when they come in, we can swear them in, we can transcribe it if anything happens. And at that point, the board can do what we did today. Oh, that's a great idea, we'll give you a decision at the next meeting, or we can do what we did with Karen, which is actually come back. Or you can say to them at that point, you need a new application. I mean, they always run the risk of needing a new application based upon the scope of the
What's
amendment.
easiest for you, Candace? Not to cut Katie off, but what's easiest?
Exactly.
That's what, okay, because I know it all comes.
And I'm not,
Candace.
You guys have
and I'm
been
not crazy
scheming all
about
week long, huh?
Yeah.
the informal
Well, that's
without
what I
it
mean,
being.
like, so what's
yeah,
best for
it's-
Candace and just one policy for everybody?
I think,
Well, that's, yeah.
Which is fine. Just we can-
Is
so
that
once
more
we-
difficult for you or no?
No, not at all. I would, have them advertise. That was the only step that I was trying to figure out where to.
Advertise and post or just advertise?
Advertise, post, mail.
Like the regular?
I think it's better.
Everyone's on it.
I
So
think
all the
it's
neighbors
fair,
know
it's
about
fair
it.
play.
Because otherwise, Candace and I are trying to figure out, well, what would the board do? Would they, would they want a new application?
Who says $100 is a good is a good fee?
The town board.
You guys
I guess.
decide that between the two of you, or what?
I think it's the town board.
That's set by the town board.
That's by the town board. Oh, yeah.
Modification, they actually speak, and the town board speaks to a modification with the zoning board of
Amendment.
appeals.
Says-
Fees are-
it has amendment.
They have a fee schedule.
Yeah, they
On it,
vote on the
oh.
fee schedule.
Oh, yeah.
Like every.
They vote on it.
Yeah.
And if you want to increase the fee, you can propose
I
it.
think the fee should be increased.
Well, particularly now since we are including the advertisement.
Where there's money and there's costs and there's time.
$200
We
is
pay for
fine.
the advertising?
Okay.
They need a new app. What are they getting for an app nowadays?
Seven.
Then it should.
All right, they can try to get away with 200 to start, otherwise they'll go to 750.
All right, so I would say, do we do that by motion or how do we do that?
Well, let's
Change the policy.
policy. We-
How do we change the policy?
We can do it by motion.
I don't know, man.
I think we do it by vote.
By vote?
I'll memorialize it like we did with the policies. I'll add it as a policy. It's just, it's nicer to do it.
All right, so everyone's going to get posting and advertising.
Yes, for
All right.
modification.
And then I'll inform Kyle that you recommend to increase the fee based on this change in the policy.
Correct.
Is this unanimous? Is everyone okay with doing this?
Agreed.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes? Okay.
250.
Unanimous. 300.
You all know how much I love modifications, especially when they're 20 years old. Boom.
A night full of them.
Yep.
Okay. Decision.
I have a decision in the matter of Doris Olson, premises located at 17 Kyle Road, Hampton Bays. I'll read the relief at the end. Property identified by Suffolk County Tax Map 900-265-5-29.
Thank you, Kate.
It is approximately 11,999 square feet. Parcel is located in the R20 zoning district. Applicant and Janet Roberts took title to the premise dated September 20th of 2018. Type 2 pursuant to SECRA. Kevin Springer, Dynamic Legal Services, appeared on behalf of the applicant's father, who is now deceased. He made the improvements back in '86. Mr. Springer testified the request for minimal relief, and the applicant submitted an estimate from the Cruz brothers indicating it would cost $26,750 to remove the addition. Mr. Springer maintained that the neighbors at 16 Kyle, 19 Kyle, and 24 Staller did not object to the application. There was no opposition at the public hearing. It does meet the 5-part test. While this board does not condone as-built, it still meets the 5-part test. Therefore, the board grants relief from provision 3, section 330, 115 D2 continuance for a principal rear yard setback of 42.8 feet, where 45 feet is permitted, to legalize an addition to the existing dwelling without the benefit of a building permit. 2, 330.11, residential district table of dimensional regulations, for an accessory side yard setback of 9.9 feet where 10 feet is required, to legalize the outdoor shower constructed without the benefit of a building permit. 3, 330.76D, and Town Code 330.83C yards, to allow the outdoor shower to remain within the required side yard of the principal building, These variances are granted for structures as shown on the survey prepared by Kenneth M. Wochuk, land surveyor, dated April 10th of 2017. The grant of the foregoing relief is subject to such other conditions and permits as applicant has already acquired or may otherwise have to acquire for final approval.
Second.
Mr. DeSessa.
Aye.
Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
The decision in the matter of Charles DeFalco, 98 Lewis Road, East Quogue, New York, Suffolk County, tax map number 900-340-2-6. I will read the relief at the end. This is approximately 12,300 square feet, R20 zoning district, type 2 under SECRA. At the public hearing, Charles DeFalco testified relief is needed for a proposed one-story addition to his existing dwelling. The variances are needed for the principal total side yard setback of 37.1 feet, where 39 feet is existing, and a variance for the principal rear yard setback of 39 feet, where 49.9 feet is existing. These variances would keep with the character of the neighborhood due to the recent improvements made at neighboring properties located at 97, 100, 101 Lewis Road. This property is substantially substandard. Lot width is only 100 feet. There's no other method to complete this improvement. There will also be a new nitrogen recovery septic system, improving the environment. The applicant did have letters of support from adjacent properties located in 96, 97, and 101. Therefore, this passes a 5-part test. Therefore, this board grants relief from Town Code Section 330-115 for a proposed one-story addition to an existing dwelling. A principal total side yard setback 37.1 feet, where 39 feet is existing, and a principal rear yard setback of 39.4 feet, where 49.9 feet is existing, as shown on the survey prepared by Hands-On Surveying, dated October 14, 2010. Last revised April 25th, 2019, and the plans prepared by Sean P. Cunningham, dated March 8th, 2019, sheet number A3.0, revised May 9th, 2019. The grant of the foregoing relief is subject to such other conditions as applicant has already acquired or may otherwise have to acquire for final approval of subject premises.
Second.
Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Mr. DeSessa.
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Get a determination in the matter of Bidis, 65 Bayview Drive West in Noyak. Read the relief at the end. Subject contains located at 65 Bayview Drive West in Noyak, Suffolk County Tax Map 900, Section 16, Block 2, Lot 50, R20 zoning district, type 2, pursuant to SECRA. To summarize, Attorney Richard Matthews appeared on behalf of the applicant. The applicant is seeking to construct a 2-story addition to an existing home, as well as a trellis. The additional part of the application, which was not part of the relief necessary, were for retaining walls on the western side of the property. The neighbor to the west, Bruce Weatherall, and his family appeared in opposition to the application. Specifically, they objected to the installation of proposed retaining walls on the west side of the property and the impact the proposed wall would have on the existing trees that the objecting neighbor portrayed as being on their lot. Everyone recalls that. Nonetheless, the applicants agreed to revise their application to move the location of those proposed walls to 10 feet inside of the property lines. The neighbor did not have any objections to the proposed house addition or the trellis, which are the subject of the zoning relief. Meets the 5-part test. Therefore, in the interest of justice and the reasons set forth herein, this board grants relief from Section 330.11 for a principal rear yard setback of 36 feet, where 60 feet is required, and a principal minimum side yard setback of 16.1 feet, where 20 feet is required, for a proposed one-story addition. Section 330.76D, placement of accessory building structures and uses in all districts, and Section 330.83C, yards, to allow a proposed deck to be located within the required minimum side yard for the principal building, and Section 330.11 for an accessory front yard setback of 40.1 feet, where 50 is required, for a proposed patio with trellis. This was last shown on a survey by F. Michael Hemmer, land surveyor, dated June 6, 2019, last revised April 25th of 2019, and incorporated herein. Sorry. It was dated April 25th of 2019, last revised June 6th of 2019. The granting of this relief is conditioned upon the applicant obtaining all other permits or approvals as determined by the Southampton Town Building Department.
Second.
Mr. DeSessa.
Aye.
Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
I have a decision in the matter of the application of LI Automobile Collectors LLC, 315 County Road 39, North Sea, Tuckahoe, tax map 900, 131, 1, lot 7.1. I'm going to read the request for relief at the end. This board classified the application as a type 1 action and coordinated with the Southampton Town Planning Board, Suffolk County Department of Health Services, Suffolk County Department of Public Works, and the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. Pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act, the Planning Board assumed lead agency and by resolution dated May 9, 2019, adopted a negative declaration pursuant to SECRA. Said negative declaration evidences that the proposed project will not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts. Rob Marcinsick of O'Shea, Marcinsick and Bruin appeared on behalf of the applicant, stating that they would like to change the use on the premises from a museum use for the storage of automobiles, automobile parts, and machinery to the storage of portable toilets, associated materials, and items in connection with the portable toilet rental and leasing business. Mr. Marcinsick explained that the entire property had been used in connection with the operation of the Long Island Automobile Museum, which still sits on the HB portion of the premises to the south, and that the buildings located in the R20 portion have been used commercially in connection with the business for storage. Mr. Marcinsick explained that the structure benefits from a pre-existing C of O C180084, and that the applicant would like to use the structures and the premises to operate and store a porta-pots, portable toilets business. Mr. Marcinsick also requested a variance pursuant to Town Code 330-167A to allow the HB zoning district line to be moved in order to accommodate more of the business. Meets the 5-part tests. Therefore, this board grants relief from the Town Code 330-116 extension as it relates to Town Code 330-167B3 to permit a change from one non-conforming use to another, to wit, from an auto museum to the storage of portable toilets and associated materials and items in connection with a portable toilet rental and leasing business. In addition, this board grants relief from Code 330-167A, specific types of variances to permit an extension of the highway business zoning district boundary line 50 feet north into R20 zoning district. The granting of this relief is conditioned upon the removal of the southernmost 3,117 square foot storage building as shown on the map prepared by Vincent Gaudiello, PE of the Rayner Group, last revised February 20th, 2019, prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy for the new use. And 2, the portable toilets and associated materials and items must be stored within the storage buildings, and the toilets must be stored empty and clean. The grant of this variance is subject to the conditions of such other permits as the applicant has heretofore acquired or may otherwise be necessary for the proposed variance.
Second.
Mr. Kelly.
Aye.
Mr. Hahn.
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. DeSessa.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
I have a matter, in the matter of Diane Christopher, 19 Maple Lane, Noyak, Sag Harbor, New York, Suffolk County, tax map number 900-3210. The subject premise is located at 19 Maple Lane, is approximately 12,254 square feet in an R80 zoning district. We find this to be a type 2 action under SECRA. Public hearing, Wayne Bruin of O'Shea, Marcinsick and Bruin appeared on behalf of the applicant, stating that she seeks variances to legalize a deck and a shed built without the benefit of a building permit. The premise is an odd trapezoid shape. Mr. Bruin explained that the applicant's mother, who was the previous owner, replaced the pre-existing shed with a larger one, 10 by 16, and then expanded it with the ramp and expanded the deck, both without permit. The applicant has secured a wetlands permit to maintain the improvements, and there will not be any impact on the neighborhood or environment by allowing the structures to remain. This board is in receipt of a letter dated May 8th, 2019 from the Conservation Board noting that a permit was issued July 24th, 2018. While this board does not condone work done without the benefit of a building permit, It finds that it does meet the five-part test. Therefore, this board grants the following variances: to legalize a shed with an attached ramp that was constructed without the benefit of a building permit, relief from Town Code 330-115D. 5, continuance for an accessory side yard setback of 1.1 feet where 10 feet is permitted, an accessory rear yard setback of 1.2 feet in the northwest corner and 1.4 feet southeast corner where 10 feet is permitted. And 2, Town Code 330-84D, pyramid height for an encroachment in the amount of 743 cubic feet. And 2, to legalize the front covered deck constructed without the benefit of a building permit, relief from Town Code 330-115C, continuance for a principal front yard setback of 13.8 feet, where 17.7 feet is existing. These variances are for the structures as shown in the survey prepared by Lester Holden of Squires Holden, Weisenbacher, and Smith, survey December 5th, 2016, last updated December 11th, 2018, and the shed floor plan and elevations prepared by Stephen D. Lemansky, dated March 11th, 2019. The grant of the foregoing relief is subject to such other conditions and permits as applicant has already acquired or may otherwise have to acquire for final approval of the subject premise.
Second.
Mr. Daly?
Aye.
Mr. Hahn?
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill?
Aye.
And Mr. DeSessa?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
I have a determination in the matter of Wolfersdorf. Property is located at 2 Sarah Way, East Quogue, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-344-1-28. The subject premises is located at 2 Sarah Way, again, East Quogue, contains approximately 35,618 square feet, located in the R40 zoning district, benefits from C of Os and a previous ZBA decision, type 2 pursuant to SECRA. Public hearing, Edward and Susan Wolfersdorf appeared stating they seek a variance to construct a garage and a swimming pool on the premises. The premises is odd. It is a triangular-shaped lot fronting 3 roads, thus constrained by 3 front yards. Mr. Wolfersdorf stated that they'd like to construct a 16 by 30 garage, 20 by 40 swimming pool, both of which are common amenities in the neighborhood. Mr. Wolfersdorf added that the premises benefits from a previously granted variance to construct a 20 by 14 garage in this location. That was never built, but because the proposed garage is larger, the building department advised him to get a variance. No opposition to the application. Therefore, this board grants relief from the following provisions of the town code for a proposed garage with attached shed, section 330-11, for an accessory front yard setback of 20 feet from the private road where 70 feet is required. 2, section 330-76D, placement of accessory building structures in all districts, and section 330-83C yards, to allow the garage with attached shed to be located within the required front yard of the principal building. 2, for the proposed swimming pool. Swimming pool. Section 330-11, for an accessory front yard setback of 46.4 feet from the private road where 70 feet is required, and 27 feet from Sarah Lynn's Way where 70 feet is required. Section 330-76D and section 330-83C yards, to allow the swimming pool to be located within the required front yard of the principal building. This relief is granted for the structures as shown in the survey prepared by John Gallagher, land surveyor, surveyed October 4th, 2018, last updated March 26th, 2019. The grant of the foregoing relief is subject to such other conditions and permits as applicant has already acquired or may otherwise have to acquire for final approval of the subject premises.
Second.
Mr. DeSessa?
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill?
Aye.
Mr. Hahn?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Mr. Daly?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
I have a decision in Jeffrey Sadowski, 190 North Sea Meatcots Road, North Sea, New York, Suffolk County Tax Map number 900-112-2-31, Type 2 under SECRA, R20 zoning district. Robert Frechette at the public hearing testified the applicant is looking for 2 variances, pyramid height for the detached garage and rear yard coverage on a non-conforming lot. The swimming pool was moved 9 feet further away than originally planned. The ZBA is in receipt of a letter from Swim King Pool noting that. We also got a letter of the cost to fix the problem, which is $68,000. The applicant also requests relief for pyramid height that a proposed encroachment in the amount of 1,315 cubic feet, where 418 cubic feet is already existing. There's an additional 897 cubic feet for a proposed dormer addition to the existing garage. A revised design by Studio Mass Green Tree Architecture and Design was submitted to the ZBA, stamped and received May 28, 2019. Therefore, Mr. Tuthill, the board grants relief to Town Code Section 330-8 to determine height for proposed encroachment in the amount of 1,350 cubic feet for proposed dormer addition to the existing garage. In addition, applicant requests relief from Town Code Section 330-77D for rear yard coverage of 29.4%, where a maximum of 20% is permitted for a proposed second-story deck and exterior stairs to legalize the location of an in-ground swimming pool on a non-conforming lot, shown on a survey prepared by PLS Architects dated February 11, 2019, last revised February 21st, 2019. The grant of the foregoing relief is subject to such other conditions and permits as applicant has already acquired or may otherwise have to acquire for final approval of the subject premises.
Second.
Mr. Hahn?
Aye.
Mr. Daly?
Aye.
Mr. Kelly?
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill?
Aye.
Mr. DeSessa?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Do we have a motion to close?
Motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.